Your Majesty, did you send the empress to the enemy army? He sneered. A few days ago, she hit the noble consort. I'm just scaring her. But the empress has been hung on the city wall by the enemy for more than 20 days, exposed to the sun and rain. Upon hearing this, he was struck like a bolt of thunder and rushed to the front line. Bitch, why hasn't the great Qin emperor come yet? Aren't you his favorite woman? How could he leave you here to fend for yourself? The Chanyu's roars made Wen Yang's distorted face twitch slightly, several whiplashes fell, and the smell of blood filled her nostrils again. Her bloodshot eyes bulged as she lifted her eyelids. Give up. The person he loves the most is noble consort Yuan, not me. When noble consort was mentioned, the Chanyu flew into a rage. He swapped his whip for a sharp, barbed steel knife, and swung it directly at Wen Yang's face. A centipede-like scar instantly appeared on her cheek, hideous yet pitiful. She gasped in pain, while the Chanyu's shouts echoed in her ears. Why does Xiao Mingyu love a Yuan? A Yuan is my wife. Xiao Mingyu tricked her into the palace through deceit and robbery. I want Xiao Mingyu to bring a Yuan here for an exchange, otherwise, you'll hang on this city wall forever, for 20 whole days. There was no news of reinforcements. When Yang was hung on the city wall, exposed to the sun and rain, every time she was on the verge of death. The Chanyu would have her revived with medicine. The doctor said her tendons, bones, tongue, and mouth were all broken. She was clinging to her last breath. She held on to this breath to see if Xiao Mingyu's reinforcements would ever come. She, Wen Yang, the last female general of the Wen family army, a general of the dynasty, and even the empress of the land, the empress was trapped. Provisions hadn't arrived for more than 20 days, and reinforcements were delayed indefinitely. Yet this place was only 100 li from the rear camp. Even an old woman could walk there. Xiao Mingyu, could you really be so heartless, abandoning her like this? They had known each other since their humble beginnings. How could 20 years of affection turn into this? 3 more days passed. The Chanyu appeared in front of Wen Yang again. This time, there were tears on his cold face. He said, "Today, there's a happy event." Wen Yang couldn't lift her head anymore. She looked like someone being swallowed by magma. She gasped for breath, straining to hear the Chanyu's words. A happy event. Could it be that reinforcements had arrived? Then she heard the Chanyu's maniacal laughter, mixed with extremely painful shouts. Today, a Yuan and Xiao Mingyu got married. You've been branded a traitor, and your position as empress has been abolished. Wen Yang, you made countless military achievements for Great Qin, yet in the end, you're labeled a traitor. Your Wen family has served Great Qin for generations. This is the emperor's reward. Wen Yang, you're so pitiful, even more pitiful than me. The faint glimmer of hope in her eyes faded instantly. All her aspirations turned into illusions. A fishy sweetness surged in her stomach, and she spat out a mouthful of blood violently. A buzzing filled her ears. She saw that the dilapidated city had fallen into chaos. Bugles blared and flags waved everywhere. Reinforcements had finally arrived. That dazzling bright yellow outfit stung Wen Yang's eyes. Xiao Mingyu had finally come, but the imperial edict he brought read, execute Wen Yang, annihilate the enemy army. The battle between Great Ju and the Jurchens, the 800 female generals of the Wen family all perished. The main general, Wen Yang, betrayed her country and humiliated the court, colluding with the enemy from within and without, causing heavy losses to Great Ju. His Majesty led the army in person, beheaded Wen Yang, and boosted the army's morale. The imperial guards defended the city for 10 days, driving the foreign invaders 100 li away. The Chanyu, leader of the Jurchens, personally brought a letter of surrender, hoping to form an alliance with Great Ju and maintain peace between the two countries for 100 years. Thus, he offered tens of thousands of cattle, sheep, and horses, along with countless gold, silver, pearls, and jade. Border markets were opened between the two countries. Promoting foreign trade and prosperity, His Majesty returned triumphantly to the capital. The people knelt along the road to welcome him, shouting in unison, "Long live your Majesty, long live your Majesty," 1,000 times 1,000 times. In the imperial court, all ministers pledged their allegiance. Yet on the grievance platform, the drum of appeal boomed, boom, boom, boom. The drumbeats were deep and resonant, It was an elderly, frail old woman. She wore a bright golden crown on her cloud-shaped bun, and a blue robe embroidered with golden cranes dancing among clouds. She looked as if she was about to soar into the sky. Beneath her wide scholar's sleeves, a pair of wrinkled hands held a simple wooden tablet. Carved on the tablet were several large characters. "Spirit of my daughter Yang." As she beat the drum of appeal, she shouted loudly, "The Wen family has produced famous generals for generations. My son Wen Mian was Great Zhu's top general. Since the late emperor ascended the throne, he guarded the border for 10 years, because the Jurchens fraudulently deceived innocent people. When Mian sacrificed himself to save the people from suffering, falling into the enemy camp and dying a hero's death, my son was a true man, and my daughter-in-law was virtuous and resilient. After my son's death, she raised 4 sons and 1 daughter alone, Wen Mian, Wen Li, Wen Qin. And Wen Lian served as Grand General, Cavalier General, Chariot General, and Central Commandant respectively. All of them died for the country and the people in numerous battles. Before the late emperor and late empress passed away, they specially bestowed upon the Wen family a plaque inscribed with loyal and famous generals. This plaque hangs high above our doorframe, reminding us to be vigilant every day. Though when Yang was young, under the guidance of her father and brothers, she always kept serving our country in her heart. Now, when Yang has been convicted of colluding with the enemy and betraying the country, dishonouring the Wen family name, the Wen family ancestral hall refuses to place her spirit tablet alongside those of her father and brothers for future generations to worship. This old woman refuses to accept it, does not understand it, and cannot bear it. Therefore, I have knelt 3 times and kowtowed 9 times, walked on burning coals, and rolled on a bed of nails, begging your majesty to retry this case. Vindicate the Wen family, vindicate Wen Yang, and above all, vindicate the mother of this country. With that, the old woman threw down the drumstick, picked up a black wooden cane from the ground, and slowly walked down the grievance platform. Then she knelt 3 times and kowtowed 9 times. She moved to the path of burning coals, took off her shoes and socks, and stepped on them barefoot. Sizzling sparks and faint smoke rose as the coals burned brighter and redder. The 10-jong-long path of burning coals, supported by her cane, the old woman walked steadily without faltering, as if the feet touching the coals were not flesh and blood, but iron bones. The unyielding integrity of the Wen family was beneath her feet at this moment. Seeing this, several eunuchs were shocked. Yet they could not bring themselves to persuade her, for they also refused to believe that the gentle and kind empress could be a traitor colluding with the enemy. They too hoped that Empress Wen Yang, General Wen Yang, would be cleared of her grievances. Thus, even though they could not bear to see the old woman suffer, the eunuchs could only clench their teeth and stand guard by her side. For every step the old woman took, the eunuchs moved with her. She walked through the burning coals and rolled on the bed of nails. Immediately afterward, the eunuchs carried her on their shoulders and rushed into the imperial court. Silence reigned below the court hall. On the throne above, the emperor remained cold and indifferent. Minister Wang Shouqing, Director of Military Affairs, stepped forward and asked on behalf of the emperor, "Old Madam Wen, the case of Wen Yang has already been decided. Your act of beating the drum of appeal is indeed a breach of etiquette. Walking on burning coals and rolling on nails is a minor punishment. Please go home and stop pestering us." The old woman was exhausted, but her voice was loud and clear, each word ringing out. What if this old woman insists on pestering? Wang Shouqing narrowed his eyes, his tone heavy with warning. Then the punishment will be far more severe than burning coals and nail beds. The old woman curled her sharp lips into a smile. If Wen Yang's crimes are clear, with sufficient witnesses and evidence, then it is this old woman who failed to educate her well. I should share the same crime as Wen Yang. Take my head to comfort the 800 female generals and 80,000 soldiers of the Wen family army. The old woman's firm words came from the courage of the Wen family's glorious military achievements. From the confidence of the Wen family's tradition of loyalty to the country. Her sons were true men, and her daughters were no less heroic than men. Wen Yang could never have committed treason. Minister Wang was the top scholar of the previous dynasty, born into a poor family. He had handled many cases involving noble clans and resented those who used their achievements to overshadow others. The Wen family's reputation was well-deserved, and their loyalty was unquestionable. But Wen Yang's cruelty was an established fact in his eyes. The old woman's actions were to pressure the emperor and the people, and he had no intention of indulging her. Minister Wang stepped forward, bowed slightly to Emperor Xiao Mingyu on the throne. "Your Majesty, since old Madam Wen insists, let us retry the case to give an explanation to everyone and to the world." Xiao Mingyu's expression remained unchanged, cold and indifferent. His icy voice echoed through the hall. "Do as Minister Wang suggests, I will listen. I only hope that after today, I never hear anything about the Wen family again." This sentence was equivalent to a death sentence for the Wen family. If the old woman lost this fight, the entire Wen clan would be implicated. If the emperor refused to hear about the Wen family, who would dare to promote Wen clan officials, or let the Wen clan appear in the palace again? Old Madam Wen was clearly not one to admit defeat. She said, "I'm afraid I cannot fulfill your Majesty's wish. The Wen family, the Wen clan, will surely go down in history." Xiao Mingyu narrowed his handsome eyebrows, exuding an aura of authority that reached Wang Shouqing's eyes. Wang Shouqing curled his lips slightly, waved his hand, and shouted, "Someone, bring up the evidence of the empress colluding with the enemy and betraying the country." Several eunuchs hurried to the military affairs office and brought up all the items collected during the previous investigation. Also brought up was Wen Yaowa, a surviving female general of the Wen family who had not died on the battlefield. When Wen Yaowa saw old Madam Wen, a faint glimmer of hope flashed across her defeated face. But when she saw the full hall of civil and military officials, that glimmer faded instantly. Old Madam Wen clenched her hands tightly, controlling her emotions at the sight of Wen Yaowa. Silence fell over the scene. Wang Shouqing pointed to the evidence and recounted all of Wen Yang's treasonous acts one by one. This border defense map can only be seen by the top generals who hold the Tiger Tally. In the court, only two people hold the Tiger Tally. One is Prince Jingkang, the late emperor's younger brother, who has made countless military achievements for Great Zhu. Now he is 75 years old, bedridden for more than 3 years, not to mention copying this map from memory. He can barely lift a brush. Therefore, the only person who could have copied this map is none other than the mother of the country, the last descendant of the Wen family, Wen Yang. The map still bears Wen Yang's handwriting. After verification by Liu Rufeng, the top scholar in the world, it has been confirmed to be Wen Yang's own writing. "Old Madam, please take a look. Isn't this your beloved granddaughter's handwriting?" Wang Shouqing presented the map, even from several zhong away. The old woman recognized Wen Yang's handwriting at a glance. She calmed her voice and said, "This handwriting is indeed Wen Yang's." Wang Shouqing snorted coldly, filled with unspeakable pride and confidence. As a high-ranking figure, no one could have forced Wen Yang to write this. Therefore, is there any need for old Madam to see the rest of the witnesses and evidence? This is a solemn imperial court, meant for discussing state affairs, since old Madam has acknowledged this evidence. "Shouldn't you?" But the old woman interrupted him. "What you say is correct, but I stand by my words. Wen Yang could never have betrayed her country." Absolutely stubborn, Wang Shouqing's tone grew impatient. The old woman replied, "Although this map was drawn by Wen Yang, is it definitely a border defense map?" Wang Shouqing was stunned, glanced at the map again, and said firmly, "Of course it is a border defense map." The old woman smiled softly. "Minister Wang just said that only 2 people have seen the border defense map. How can you be certain that this map is indeed the border defense map?" Wang Shouqing frowned slightly. The loyal ministers below also turned their eyes to him. He said, "This humble minister has visited Prince Jingkang's mansion, and His Royal Highness confirmed it. Can we ask Prince Jingkang to identify it again?" "Of course, but Prince Jingkang is elderly. Coming to the imperial court would be." "Prince Jingkang, this old woman has already invited him. He is waiting outside the door now." "Minister Wang, what does your Majesty think?" All ministers waited for the Son of Heaven on the throne to speak. Wang Shouqing's face darkened repeatedly, and a trace of timidity crept into his heart. After all, when he had visited Prince Jingkang earlier, the The prince had only glanced at the map before confirming it was the border defense map. There was a hint of impatience in his tone. If the old prince really couldn't see clearly due to poor eyesight, he wouldn't know how to defend himself. But Wang Shoucheng glanced at the other evidence beside him and steadied his resolve. This map might have been a mistake, but those other items were irrefutable proof. On the throne, Xiao Mingyu parted his lips, a trace of impatience flashing in his cold eyes. Since Uncle Huang is already here, we must invite him up. Go fetch him. The eunuch hurried to do so. Soon, Prince Jinkang arrived in the hall. Everyone expected him to be carried or supported, but he walked in with a spring in his step, looking energetic. Prince Jinkang's face was radiant. There was not a trace of illness about him. Your servant pays homage to your majesty. His voice was deep and resonant, full of vitality. Everyone was stunned. Wang Shoucheng was particularly shocked. Even Xiao Mingyu's cold brows furrowed with confusion. Uncle Huang, you seem in excellent spirits. A few days ago, I visited your mansion and feared you were nearing the end. May I ask which doctor's miraculous skills cured you? Prince Jinkang sighed and bowed deeply. Your Majesty, this servant deserves death for his crimes. What do you mean, Uncle Huang? This servant deceived your Majesty, deceived all the ministers, and deceived Minister Wang. I am sorry to Empress Wen and the Wen family. I was never ill, it's just that I still have a playful streak. But court rules state that princes in the capital cannot leave the city. To travel to Jiangnan and enjoy its scenery, I found a man who resembles me 9 out of 10 to pretend to be me. To avoid discovery, I told him to feign illness when receiving guests. I never expected this would lead to such a terrible mistake. Your Majesty, I am guilty. As his words fell, everyone understood. Several skeptical glances turned to Wang Shoucheng. He convicted someone without even finding the real person involved. The Wen family has been loyal generals for generations. They could never do such a thing. Retry this case, and strip Wang Shoucheng of his official position. Listening to the whispered discussions around her, old Madame Wen's expression remained unchanged. She only watched, listened, and waited for the moment when Yang's name would be cleared. Wang Shoucheng's face burned with embarrassment, as if the countless gazes on him were slaps to his cheek. After serving as an official for so many years, he never thought his lifelong reputation would be ruined by the playful Prince Jinkang. He pressed his lips together and said, Your Royal Highness, regardless of your crimes, please first take a look at this border defense map and confirm if it is genuine. Wang Shoucheng handed the map to Prince Jinkang, but Prince Jinkang fell silent. Xiao Mingyu watched the scene below, never having felt such a strong urge to know if the map was real or fake. When Yang was such a ruthless person, even if she hadn't betrayed the country, her other crimes deserved death. Yet, for such a ruthless person, what exactly was he hoping for? He moved his lips and said to the hall, Uncle Huang's situation is special. The rule that princes cannot leave the capital was established by the late emperor to ensure the stability of the capital. But the political situation today is different from then. Your crime will be dealt with leniently. Do not worry, Uncle Huang. Let us first continue the trial of Wen Yang's treason case. Prince Jinkang nodded and bowed in thanks. He stood up and examined the map carefully. After a long while, he let out a deep sigh. Everyone focused their attention on him. Then came the prince's words. This map is genuine. As soon as the words fell, sighs of disappointment filled the crowd. A look of triumph returned to Wang Shoucheng's face. The tension in Xiao Mingyu's heart eased once more, but Prince Jinkang added, however, this map shows the border defense from 3 years ago. The current defense has long been revised. So this map, I would like to ask Minister Wang, where did you get this map? And who gave it to you? Before Wang Shoucheng could speak, Wen Yaroa, who was kneeling on the ground, spoke up. This map was given to Minister Wang by the Chanyu, leader of the Jurchen tribe. The Chanyu said he gave Sister Yang countless gold, silver, and treasures, and in return, Sister Yang gave him this map. It was based on this map that the Chanyu directly attacked the border and trapped the 800 female generals of the Wen family with no way out. She spoke with a smile. When Yaroa looked at old Madam Wen, every word clear. Old Madam, it's admirable that you came all this way, but it's really unnecessary. Old Madam Wen concentrated. Not saying a word, Wen Yaoer continued, I was by Sister Yang's side when she was beheaded. She told me not to resist, not to appeal her case, and not to argue. She said, it was pointless. At first, I didn't understand why she would let herself suffer such injustice without defending her innocence. But after I was imprisoned in the Military Affairs Office, I understood. Because these greedy scholars only know how to use their so-called evidence in the court and courtroom to falsely accuse whoever they want to frame. The Wen family's generals have defended this country for 100 years. The Wen family's shops have enriched the national treasury. Women of the family have been in business for generations. Yet now, they think the Wen family could be bribed with such trivial gains. Is the position of empress not noble enough? Or can the Wen family's merchants not earn this much silver? They only see gold, silver, and treasures exchanged for a map, but they don't see that this map is outdated, nor do they see where all that gold and silver eventually went. Old Madam Wen pressed her lips together, her body trembling slightly. Wen Yaoer's words spoke of unspeakable suffering. My child, you've endured so much. Upon hearing this, the surrounding discussions erupted again. Gold and silver treasures. A few days ago, a huge sum of money donated by the Wen family was added to the national treasury. Could it be that empress Wen exchanged an outdated map for a full national treasury? This case was handled far too hastily. Wang Shouqing's face darkened as he once again became the target of everyone's suspicion. He took a deep breath and looked at Wen Yaoer and old Madam Wen. There's something I didn't want to say, hoping to preserve the Wen family's dignity and the reputation of their famous generals. But now, old Madam Wen, I have no choice but to offend. Wang Shouqing straightened his posture and said to everyone in the hall, although Wen Yang was honored as the mother of the country, no one has seen her background, her moral character, or her hardships. If she had been favored, respected, and protected, she would certainly not have betrayed the country. But in reality, our Empress of Great Ju has long been a figurehead. Only an imperial edict sending her to the cold palace was missing. It was common knowledge that when Yang was not favored, she was not favored by the royal family, she was not respected by the concubines, she was not treated with deference by the eunuchs and palace maids. As empress, she ate chaff and vegetables, never having a single happy day in the harem. Xiao Mingyu's expression dimmed. The tension that had eased moments earlier tightened again at Wang Shouqing's words. When Yang was not favored, that was true, but when Yang eating chaff and vegetables? How could that be? She was the Empress of Great Ju, the most precious daughter of the Wen family. Wang Shouqing lifted the hem of his robe and knelt down on both knees. Your Majesty, this should be a matter for the harem, but today someone has questioned my thoroughness in handling the case. I can only strive to defend my position and seek fairness and justice. Xiao Mingyu's palm tightened slightly. The cold-hearted man's eyes now showed turbulent currents beneath the surface. The Empress consort's suffering. How is it that I was unaware? Minister Wang, you may speak freely, but if there is any falsehood, this warning was quite clear. Wang Shouqing frowned slightly, truly puzzled as to what the emperor meant. Then he realized, as an emperor, if word spread that Xiao Mingyu was being harsh to the empress, it would certainly be detrimental to his reputation. With such a sentence, he had neatly dodged the issue. Indeed, an emperor for all time. His words and actions would never allow him to be tainted with any disgrace. At this moment, he actually felt pity for Wen Yang, pity for her marrying into the imperial family, pity for her becoming the queen of this nation, and also pity for her walking down the path of treason and betrayal. Wang Shouqing, having received Xiao Mingyu's consent, turned around and displayed the detailed account of Empress Wen's expenses in the palace on the evidence table. And he stated each point with a resounding voice. In the second year of Mingjia, during the severe winter cold, all the concubines' palaces were supplied with high-quality gold-threaded charcoal to keep the inner palace warm. Each palace received different types of bedding according to the rank of the concubine, with quantities only more rather than less, supplied as needed. Yet in Empress Wen's Pingyi Palace, charcoal was strictly forbidden. Not a single piece of cotton bedding or old mattress was ever delivered. 2 maidservants froze to death in Pingyi Palace that winter. As soon as these words fell, the ministers were all shocked. when Yarrow gave a cold smile, the tears in her eyes were now streaming down continuously. Among the two people who had frozen to death, one was her own younger sister. When she heard the news of her sister's death, she was so incredulous. How could she have imagined that a maid serving beside the empress would actually freeze to death inside the palace from lack of firewood and bedding? Old Lady Wen's heart was equally shocked at this moment, because that winter, when Yang had sent someone home to seek silver money to smooth relations, the daughter-in-law, her daughter, had saved 1,000 taels to send over. But old Lady Wen had stopped her. It was because Lady Wen had been loyal and valiant all her life, and could not bear to see such money transactions. She never expected, really never expected, that her most beloved granddaughter, in the cold winter days, had not even a bit of coal for warmth. A queen consort of a great nation had no heating items at all. Xiao Mingyu's eyes instantly turned cold. Here is the translation, its confusion, its bewilderment, its disbelief. But Wang Shouqing's voice by her ear was still continuing. During the 3rd year of Mingjia, spring insect plague, personnel shortage in the Hall of Peace and Harmony. The insect plague first attacked the Hall of Peace and Harmony. The Empress Wu created a method for making aromatic fumigant to drive away the insect plague, which became popular in the imperial harem. This caused a shortage of mugwort components in the aromatic fumigants. To maintain peace in the imperial harem, apart from the Hall of Peace and Harmony, all palaces were required to have complete mugwort aromatic fumigants. The Hall of Peace and Harmony was plagued by the insect plague. Empress Wu fell gravely ill, and the imperial physicians were forbidden from entering the Hall of Peace and Harmony. Funny or not funny, as the discoverer of incense as an insect repellent, when Yang finally fell gravely ill due to the insect plague, how rare and precious mugwort is. In the wilderness, one could easily harvest a stack of it anywhere, yet it was precisely this common item that the nation's mother could not use. Not even mugwort can be used. How can one possibly use the imperial physician? This imperial physician is far more precious than mugwort essence. Of course it has to be banned. Under the court, everyone listened, their hearts filled with indignation. This is the mother of a nation, so what fault could possibly cause such great injustice to the queen of this nation? It shouldn't have happened. Truly it shouldn't have happened. Whether we consider that even officials and nobles must divide half their property with their first wives, or that even the wife and daughters of a butcher would not suffer such humiliation at the hands of others, Your Majesty would not have done this if there were not some unspeakable secret. Xiao Mingyu listens to the various gossiping whispers, and to the incessant chatter of Wang Shouqing below. Besides these two matters, Wen Yang's peaceful hall is like a cold palace. There is no charcoal fire, no bedding or quilts, no gold, silver, jewels, brocade, or silk fabrics. Even food was scarce, forcing her to grow crops in the palace just to have enough to eat. How could she have fallen to such a plight? On the dragon throne, Xiao Mingyu's heart trembled deeply. Below the imperial court, all the officials were shocked. Old Lady Wen's eyes reddened, and the tears in her eyes sparkled with light. After Wang Shouqing finished telling these things, he let out a gentle sigh. Therefore, in such a predicament, how could her heart remain calm, having a legitimate reason to stray from the right path? Gold and silver treasures could certainly buy a person in desperate circumstances. Wang Shouqing's words provided a motive for Wen Yang's betrayal of her country. They also made her crimes more convincing. But old Lady Wen still stood upright and dignified. The words you have spoken, Lord Wang, fill this old man with great shame. As the mistress of the Wen family, I was unaware that my precious daughter-in-law had endured such grievances in the imperial harem. But Lord Wang, your words have given Wen Yang the reason to betray her country, yet you have miscalculated one thing. Wang Shouqing concentrated. The old lady spoke with firm conviction. You have miscalculated the resilience of my Wen family's children. You have miscalculated the military spirit of my Wen family's children who fear neither hardship nor exhaustion. When Yang was 13 when she followed her father to the battlefield, in the depths of winter, she lay motionless in the snow to spy on the enemy. 10 inches of snow lay upon her, yet her eyes never blinked. In the scorching heat of June, she marched across the desert with a group of generals. wearing armor weighing dozens of kilograms, without riding camels or war horses. She would save water for the soldiers who needed it more, even if it meant going without. I must ask you, can the suffering in the imperial harem compare to the hardships of military campaigns? The pain of the harem could never compare to the agony of rivers of blood and flesh and blood slaughter. Lord Wang had never been to the battlefield, but Prince Jinkang should have spent his whole life on military campaigns. Otherwise, all of you present, go ask Prince Jinkang. Is it harder on the battlefield or in the harem? Bang! Wang Shouqing's heart suddenly tightened. Xiao Mingyu's hand also clenched tight. The person who had remained expressionless now showed an uncommon emotional ripple on his handsome face. Prince Jinkang sighed, filled with regret and sorrow. The Wang family, a loyal clan, has fallen to such a plight, truly disheartening. He looked toward the cloud-climbing path formed by two golden dragons, where Xiao Mingyu sits high above. His nephew possesses ruthless methods, and cannot tolerate the slightest imperfection. Yet for this matter concerning Wen Yang, how could he be so hasty? He bowed and said, "Your Majesty, I can guarantee with my life that the Wen family is entirely loyal and would never have any traitors who conspired with the enemy. Please grant Wen Yang a posthumous restoration of reputation, clear the Wen family's name, and give Wen Yang her innocence back, allowing her to rest in peace in the grave. And let her ancestral tablet be fully enshrined in the Wen family ancestral temple." Following that, the civil and military officials behind Wang Shouqing all knelt down with Prince Jinkang at the head. They also voiced this sentence: the case of Wen Yang was unjustly accused. Please Your Majesty clear Wen Yang's name and restore the reputation of the nation's mother. This statement caused the tears that filled the old lady's eyes to fall instantly. It is because Wen Yang is worth the officials kneeling before her. Her Wen family is even more deserving of integrity and purity. That is the iron will of the military spirit forged by the century-old foundation of her Wen family. Xiao Mingyu looked at the officials before him, his thin lips pressed together, his face pale and bluish-white. Behind his indifferent expression, a lump formed in his throat, making it impossible for him to speak, a heart, taut as a string. Like a great mountain pressing on his chest, he could hardly catch his breath. In his eyes, Wen Yang was such a venomous woman, cruel to concubines, doing everything to compete for favor. When Wang Shouqing sentenced Wen Yang, these people loudly shouted, "Long live our emperor is wise." But now, with old lady Wen wanting to reopen the case, these people are pressuring him to clear Wen Yang's name. Director Wang, what do you think? Xiao Mingyu looked toward Wang Shouqing below. Wang Shouqing had already heard the faint traces of anger in this tedious questioning. Wang Shouqing pursed his lips and lowered his head. "Your Majesty, I believe it cannot be done." Xiao Mingyu squinted. But now all the officials believe Wen Yang is innocent. What do you think Your Majesty should do?" "Your Majesty, please wait a moment. Let me list all the charges against Wen Yang first, then we can make a decision." "All right, I'll be waiting." Old lady Wen looked at everything before her, her heart growing cold once again. That person on the golden throne, the one at the tip of Wen Yang's heart. Do you remember when Wen Yang was getting married, how old lady Wen styled her hair? She said, "Yanga, that imperial harem is as deep as the sea. This journey will probably mean you won't be able to return home. Truly don't you think it over? As long as you say you don't want to, old lady will risk her life to block the arranged marriage for you." How did Wen Yang respond? Her face was beaming with happiness, which soothed old lady Wen's worries. "Grandmother, I like this man, regardless of his identity. Even if he were a beggar today, I would still like him. The harem is difficult. He said he would give me protection. He said this life would only have me. And I believe him. Grandmother, I will be happy." Really, her heartfelt vows, in today's view, seem so absurd. This emperor took a new concubine less than a year after crowning his empress. In less than 3 years, the harem had 3,000 beauties. After several military campaigns, Empress Wen Yang accompanied her husband on multiple expeditions. Upon returning victorious, she received no rewards whatsoever, but instead was treated like a concubine in the cold palace. This is the man whom Wen Yang risked her life to love. This is the man whom Wen Yang married without regret. This time, Wang Shouqing didn't dawdle with Lady Wen. Instead, he revealed all of Wen Yang's actions on the battlefield and in the harem in one go. In the harem, Wen Yang murdered consort Li and Lady Guan solely to compete for favor. Wen Yang resented and hated the favored concubine A Yuan, so she secretly administered poison to cause her miscarriage. Wen Yang despised the Empress Dowager for favoring the favored concubine A Yuan. In public, she scolded the Empress Dowager, angering her so much that she fell gravely ill on the battlefield. The border defense map shall not be examined too thoroughly for now. Wen Yang unilaterally changed the military campaign plan, leading 800 female generals to Tongyu Valley, where she was captured alive by the enemy forces, severely damaging the morale of the Great Zhou army. Thereafter, Wen Yang entered the enemy camp and provided the Great Zhou army's intelligence to the Chanyu. If it weren't for the emperor personally leading the expedition, the border regions would likely have been completely swallowed by the Chanyu, and the Great Zhou territory would have lost another stretch of mountains and rivers. When Yarowa is in the hall below, she could no longer hold back her tears. She grabbed her head and smashed it desperately against the floor, a crisp sound, accompanied by her roar, "Have I ever seen senior sister Yang alter the military plan?" She discussed with the generals, using 800 female generals to lure the enemy to Tongyu Valley. The supporting troops were to hurl stones from the mountain top and suppress the enemy forces with firearks. When the 800 female generals reached their destination, the supporting troops were nowhere to be found. The female generals fought to the death, rushed to the city gate, but the gate remained closed. The people desperately held their ground, but it was no use. That's how everything went wrong. While the sisters were invoking divine retribution and cursing the rear, it was Sister Yang who calmed everyone down. She said she believed in His Majesty, that she believed in you even until her last breath. But what did you give her? False charges, endless humiliation. Having said that, she laughed aloud to the heavens. Wang Shouqing shouted to stop her, but when Yaruo gave Wang Shouqing a fierce glare, then suddenly charged straight at him. Wang Shouqing, seeing this, waited for the right moment to dodge. Just as he dodged, when Yaro's head crashed straight into the pillar that supported the ceiling, adorned with a golden dragon, blood splattered on the spot. When Yaroa was barely alive, the dying appearance stunned everyone present. Old Lady Wen shuffled forward with unsteady steps, ignoring the pain in her feet, wanting to embrace Wen Yaroa. "Child, why suffer so, old lady? I'm not the one who's suffering, it's Sister Yang who's suffering. She has placed her life and faith in this man. But what has he done, old lady? There's no need to dwell on this anymore. Let Sister Yang bear the name of that poisonously wicked woman. Let this man be satisfied. The eyes of the ministers are clear, and the common people throughout the land also have knowing hearts." When Yaro's blood burst from her throat, the old lady's hands were stained with dye. Wang Shouqing's heart was also moved, and he could not utter a word. Xiao Mingyu squinted with his eyes, and the wrinkles between his brows seemed to reveal something indescribable. Old Lady Wen's eyes were completely red. The pain in his heart was beyond expression. She had originally thought she could still take Wen Yaroa back with her. She was the only remaining female general among the Wen family's warriors. All the male descendants of the Wen family had perished, and now the Wen family's daughters were all gone too. Gone, nothing left, everyone's gone. What use is there in holding on to this spirit tablet and pavilion? Ha 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 ha. Old Lady Wen also burst into laughter. She removed the imperial edict robes bestowed by the late emperor and draped them over Wen Yaroa's body. The old lady wore white inner robes, still bearing the bloodstains from when the hot iron was pressed against her skin. That crimson hue had long covered her entire body, contrasting with the pallor on her face. The bloodstains on her body were vivid and glaringly red. She straightened her posture and bowed deeply toward the emperor in the audience hall, saying, "Lord Wang has spoken wisely. This old person can offer no rebuttal, yet I would also like to ask, Your Majesty, do you trust her? Trust Wen Yang? Trust this nation's queen? Trust the woman who was once bathed in the romantic glow of his affection under moonlit flowers?" Xiao Mingyu's belief or disbelief in Wen Yang doesn't matter much to Empress Dowager Wen. Because Empress Dowager Wen holds sufficient evidence to refute everything Wang Shouqing said, such as the death of the concubine Li, which was due to debauchery. Another example is how the noble consort Guan was beaten to death with a bamboo stick, involving a secret matter within the imperial harem. The imperial concubine's miscarriage was also the scheming of villains, but all of this, the old lady did not wish to speak of in the imperial court, because Wen Yang felt there was no need to. Because Wen Yang values whether Xiao Mingyu believes her more, she cares more about whether Xiao Mingyu has her in his heart. Xiao Mingyu tensed his back. Since he ascended to the throne at 8 years old, he had spent his days and nights with this dragon throne. He had never felt this uncomfortable and restless for a single moment. Does he trust her appearance? Laughable, a poisonous woman, what is there to trust? Only the emperor's mocking smile at the corner of his mouth was needed for old lady when to understand the meaning of this sovereign of the 9-5. She took a deep breath, then she threw the wooden memorial tablet of Wen Yang onto the ground. That simple wooden spirit tablet instantly shattered into 2 pieces. To build memorial tablets and spirit tablets for the deceased is to hope that the souls of the dead will have a place to rest and find peace after death. And to receive offerings and worship from later generations. I originally intended to seek justice and clear Wen Yang's name, but now I feel it is no longer necessary. She said she loved rivers and streams, loved mountains and valleys, loved grasslands, loved galloping on horseback. She should not be confined to one place. She should go to a farther world, leave behind this mundane dust. This old man has come to court today, troubling all of you gentlemen and causing the emperor to worry. Prince Jinkang, thank you for making this trip. This old man has failed to live up to everyone's expectations. This old man will take his leave now. The old man knelt on the ground and forcefully shouldered Wen Ye. Several adults seeing this wanted to help, but none were as quick as Prince Jinkang. The prince lifted her with a, trying to bear S body himself, but the old lady wouldn't let go. Prince Jinkang had no choice but to help the old lady support S body. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the old lady carried Wen Yaowa on her back, step by step, leaving the grand hall. Before departing, she couldn't help but say, "This old man has wronged everyone today. When I return home, I will surely repay everyone." The old lady's little farce had come to an end. Each of the officials had their own thoughts in their hearts, painful, sad, perhaps also confusion about what the old lady's final words reparation could mean before she left. Xiao Ming's posture slumped, showing a clear sign of defeat. Something seemed to have been torn from his heart. A pair of eyes closely stared at the ground where the plaque had already broken. The empress had passed away. It was time to enter the imperial tomb, but since Wen Yang bore too many crimes, the matter of entering the imperial tomb had never even crossed the mind of the imperial tomb supervisor, Maria. Prince Jinkang picked up the plaque and placed it in his chest. He sneered mockingly. "Since no one wants this thing, I'll take it back with me, Your Majesty. This child once raced horses with me before. Back then, I didn't know her identity, thinking her just some nobody, so I made a bet with her. If she could beat me, she had to call me ancestor. Though young, she was excellent at horseback riding and actually beat me by a step. She treated the bet as a joke and didn't take it seriously, but I've remembered it for all these years. This ancestor vow isn't something I expected to come true today. I'll now place this ancestor plaque on the grassland, allowing her to gallop freely whenever she wishes in the future. It's also a way to fulfill her wish." At the emperor and empress's grand wedding, Prince Jinkang had once asked her, "Little brat, once you enter the palace, you'll never have the chance to ride horses again." She replied, "I won't ride horses, I have to guard my husband Xiao, and by the way, I have to protect his empire too. Just wait and see. I'm bound to become the greatest empress in history, guarding this country for him." That smile was bright and carefree. Even during those days in the harem when she had nothing to eat or drink, she found joy in it. It was because her heart held him. He was her faith. The court session dispersed. The eunuch had already brought a bucket of water and cleaned the bloodstains on the ground. Xiao Ming pushed away the maids and eunuchs. One person sat upon the grand hall. Silence, loneliness. Some images nevertheless shot through his mind. "Xiao Mingyu, these are vegetables I grew myself. Try some, they taste really good." "Xiao Mingyu, why did you go to the concubine's quarters again?" Didn't we agree that you would come to the Hall of Peace for play on the 15th, Your Majesty? I did not harm the concubine. How could I possibly harm your beloved, Your Majesty? I humbly request to personally lead the campaign in the frontier to protect the kingdom's safety for Your Majesty. Your Majesty, why have the reinforcements not arrived yet? Xiao Mingyu, you truly don't believe me. Fine. I understand. Ultimately, it was Wei Yang being overly sentimental. Her bright and beautiful face gradually became filled with sorrow. Wang Yang, how have you become like this? Stay away from me. From now on, you are confined to the Pingi Palace. Do not come looking for me. From this day forth, cut off all offerings to the Pingi Palace. Playing sick again. The imperial physician isn't exclusively assigned to Prince Wenyang, henceforth. The imperial physician shall be barred from entering the Pingi Palace. Get lost. You still want reinforcements. Traitor, execute Prince Wenyang. These are all harsh words that came from his mouth. So, the truth is, why? How did they end up like this? Your Majesty, something terrible has happened. Outside the palace, a eunuch rushed in hurriedly. Xiao Mingyu frowned. What is it? Why are you in such a hurry? The eunuch knelt on the ground, breathing heavily, his speech stammering. Xiao Mingyu took a deep breath. If you can't explain it clearly, don't bother explaining. Get out. But the eunuch didn't leave. After composing himself and taking several deep breaths, he said, Your Majesty. The Wen family matriarch, hanged herself. The Wen matriarch had said that if they couldn't clear Wen Yang's name, she would surrender her own head. She kept her word. She gave her life for that promise. Lady Wen Luwana prepared the old lady's remains. After guarding the remains in the ancestral hall for 7 days, they finally buried the old lady's remains. Meanwhile, Wen Yang's ashes were also being buried together, the day of the funeral. All the officials came to pay their respects. Wang Shouqing also attended. Wang Shouqing knelt before the coffin of the old lady and Wen Yang, bowing his head in mourning. Wen's second daughter-in-law had a hot-tempered nature and declared she would kick Wang Shouqing out. But the eldest daughter-in-law, also Wen Yang's mother Luwana, was well-mannered. Not only did she permit Wang Shouqing to pay his respects, but she also allowed Wang Shouqing and his attendants to stand by and complete the funeral ceremony. White cloth hung down the entire Wen family mansion. People came to pay their respects, one after another. There were countless prominent figures and merchants. There were countless street vendors. Here are the neighbors on the left and right, the vegetable sellers, the butcher's family, the jailer's brother-in-law. They all came. Wang Shouqing felt many emotions in his heart. This old lady has been honored all her life. She deserves such a distinguished honor. Indeed, he has always adhered to truth and argued cases based on evidence. But regarding the Wen Yang case, it confused him. Looking at the guests coming and going, none failed to shed tears as they recounted their past bonds with the old lady. The old lady should not have been someone who made hasty judgments, and she should not have been so reckless in handling the matter concerning Wen Yang. So, was it really his fault? Wang Shouqing began to reflect on himself, inner turmoil and restlessness. Xiao Mingyu stared blankly at the peace palace he hadn't entered in 3 years. A plaque hung at the entrance. It read, Xiao Mingyu and dogs are not allowed to enter. He sneered, showing not the slightest trace of anger. Just as his footsteps prepared to enter, he hesitated again. Lately, when Yang's appearance kept drifting through his mind, he had lost his spirit even during the morning court. When Yang was his nightmare, he should her. In the past few years, he didn't very well, did he? Now the facts are set in stone. When Yang is dead, what else could one possibly think about her? The Lantern Festival, celebrations at the Moonlight Pavilion in the capital city. Whenever this time of year comes around, the emperor would always leave the palace with his concubines, enjoying riddles and lanterns, sharing joy with the people. This year was no exception. The Lantern Pavilion arrangements were more elaborate than in previous years. It was because the birthday fell on the Lantern Festival, and the eunuchs wanted to please so the number of lanterns displayed was more than double what it had been in previous years. The emperor sat upon his dragon sedan, gazing at the colorful lanterns outside. His heart felt somewhat desolate. Yuan stood by his side, tugging at his sleeve and speaking softly with unrestrained gentleness. Your Majesty, it seems you have something on your mind. Xiao Mingyu appeared not to hear her, his eyes not even glancing toward Yuan. Feeling ignored, Yuan bit her lip, but seeing the common people moving around him, she could only respond with a smile. Before Wen Yang's death, Xiao Mingyu rarely sought her out. After Wen Yang's death, Xiao Mingyu completely stopped visiting the concubines' quarters. The position of empress had remained vacant for many days, and both inside and outside the palace. People said she would become the new empress, but after all this time had passed, Xiao Mingyu showed no intention of bestowing the title upon her. A Yuan no longer knew what exactly was going through Xiao Mingyu's mind. Suddenly, the sedan chair jolted. Yuan gasped in surprise. Once the sedan chair stabilized, Yuan finally saw two children kneeling in front of the chair. Two children were dirty, each holding a broken bowl in their hands. Your Majesty, they are ignorant children begging. A Yuan immediately pulled out her hairpin and handed it to the maid outside the sedan chair. Give it to them, arrange for them to go to a private school later. The maid did as instructed, but those two children threw the gold hairpin that the maid had brought to the ground. Then, the child shouted loudly, "My name is Nan Huan, and the one beside me is my younger brother Nan She. The two of us blocked the emperor's sedan chair because we have a wrongful case." Xiao Mingyu's brows gathered on the two beggar children. A Yuan was best at reading people's expressions and sentiments. Immediately he understood Xiao Mingyu's meaning. He spoke up, asked, "What is this wrongful case?" The two children replied directly, "It is the case of General Wen Yang, who is accused of treason and colluding with the enemy." Xiao Mingyu's face turned dark. Yuan's heart also jumped with surprise. Nan Huan continued shouting loudly, "I have evidence, enough to prove that Sister Wen Yang is the most wonderful and kind person in the world." Yuan observed the surrounding crowd and also looked at Xiao Mingyu's face, then said, "Even old lady Wen didn't have any evidence. What evidence could a mere child like you possibly have?" Nan Huan straightened her back and said, "I may not have physical evidence, but I have witnesses." Nan Huan glanced at her younger brother beside her. Nan She immediately understood. The 3-year-old child's voice wasn't soft. "I am the eyewitness. When others bullied me, Sister Wen Yang bought me cotton candy. She is the best person." Nan She's words made a Yuan laugh, and also made the entourage of maids and guards who were carrying the sedan chair laugh. Nan Huan bit her teeth and called out to the ones behind her, "Don't you all come out quickly, what are you afraid of?" So several little beggars crawled out from the shadows. The little beggars gritted their teeth and muttered under their breath, "If we're going to die, then let's die." Then they shouted loudly, "I am a witness. I can prove that Sister Wen Yang is a good person who would never do anything harmful to the people." With this breakthrough, the other little beggars also shouted it out. All of them were just saying something utterly meaningless. "I am a witness. I can prove that Wen Yang is a good person." Words alone meant nothing, and this was displayed to its fullest extent by these few little beggars. Yuan did not take these beggars seriously. Xiao Mingyu felt the same way. He immediately ordered guards to drive the few young beggars away, but before the guards could begin to act, a street vendor who sold lanterns suddenly knelt down on the ground. He said, "I am also a witness, and I can prove that General Wen Yang is a good man." Then came the little girl selling snacks by the riverside. The little girl knelt on the ground, still saying the same thing, "I am a witness, and I can prove that General Wen Yang is a good man." Then came the scholars who wrote, the old woman who sold flowers, the students dressed in the robes of the private academy, from a few people, to over a dozen, then from over a dozen, to dozens, finally developing into an entire street. On this street, everyone knelt down. Among all the people, there was only one sentence, "I am a witness. I can prove that General Wen Yang is a good person." How pale and powerless that sentence was, yet under such circumstances, it contained tremendous energy. A Yuan gritted her teeth and looked over at Xiao Mingyu beside her. His eyes were red. The entire street, involving over 100 shops, more than 1,000 street vendors and small traders, plus pedestrians, passers-by, and boat tourists, the crowd numbered in the tens of thousands. So many people, all knelt on the ground. Not because the person sitting in the sedan chair was the emperor, but because of the queen consort who had already died, the General Wen Yang. branded with the name of treason and collusion with the enemy, the Lantern Festival. Ultimately, under public petition, Wang Shouqing was forced to restate the case. Several civil officials brought over the desks and paper, ink, brushes, and inkstones. The citizens lined up in order, listing one by one all of General Wen Yang's virtuous deeds. Wen Yang older sister bought me cotton candy, so she is a good person. General Wen Yang found us a scholar and built us a private school. General Wen Yang gave me the silver coins to travel to the capital for the imperial examinations. Wen Yang is such a straightforward child. She helped me stay away from that bad man. Wen Yang is a good person. Wen Yang is the best person. I don't know how your case is being tried. But she could never do something as traitorous as collaborating with the enemy. We cannot tolerate her being slandered. We cannot bear her suffering from hopeless gossip and criticism. Wen Yang is the kind person who saved me. Wang Shouqing looked at the endless stream of people in the queue, whose numbers seemed to be increasing rather than decreasing, and his heart was filled with a mixture of emotions. Prince Jingkang approached and, upon seeing this scene, couldn't help but step forward to have a conversation with Wang Shouqing. Minister Wang, how have you been lately? Wang Shouqing wore a bitter smile. Your Highness, have you come to see how well I am doing? Joking aside, how could your Highness wish ill for Minister Wang? Prince Jingkang stroked his beard at his chin and laughed heartily, but this laugh, as seen by Wang Shouqing, was filled with bitterness. Prince of Jingkang, your subordinate, seems to have made a mistake. This kind of petition by the masses has only occasionally occurred during the chaotic and corrupt periods of various dynasties, aimed at generals like Yu Fei who were great ministers serving the country and people. Nowadays, our dynasty has also produced such an example. In my fear and trembling, I have inadvertently offended the masses. Jingkang saw Wang Shouqing's sincere suffering and grief, and the Daoist said, Lord Wang, you shouldn't be a foolish person. Haven't you heard at all about Wen Yang's reputation? Lord Wang carefully recalled it, shaking his head several times. If I had heard of this, would I dare to make such a ruling? If I had known in advance about the deeds of Wen Yang as told by the people, I would certainly have gone through the case 300 times to check for any loopholes. Your Highness, my future path will probably be difficult. What he heard from beginning to end were all about Wen Yang's despicable, malicious, and selfish actions. He had no intention of interfering in the matters of the harem, but some whispers managed to reach his ears. It was as if some giant hand was pushing him to make such a ruling, but all these details and evidence were exactly what he had found and matched. So during the investigation, what exactly did he overlook? Jingkang stood upright, letting out a slight sigh. Things have come to this point. Do you think it's still important to clear Wen Yang's name? When someone says that Wen Yang is a good person, we all doubt it. When two people say that Wen Yang is a good person, we hesitate. By the time more people are saying that Wen Yang is a good person, we have little reason not to believe this fact. What kind of disguise would a person need to maintain the appearance of being a good person in front of everyone? Do you know who has been taking care of that child since Empress Li passed away, and after concubine Wan's death, who has been arranging the family's future? And what about the miscarriage of Princess A Yuan back then? Was it really Wen Yin who did it? Governor Wang's eyes gradually widened, and his heart was instantly filled with a heavy oppression. Do you really think old lady Wen has no evidence? Old lady Wen lived an upright life and valued honor greatly, but she values her granddaughter even more. When Yaroa is dead, and old lady Wen no longer has the desire to continue testifying, Governor Wang, the one who tied the knot must untie it. You should simply go deeper into the imperial palace, visit the Wen family, and walk among the common people. That was all Lord Jingjiang had to say. Then he said, there are scheming people stirring up trouble near His Majesty, and Minister Wang should not have been so blind to this. This prince must be going now. May you cherish what you have and make the most of your remaining days. Having spoken these words, Prince Jingkang departed from this place. Wang Shouqing watched the retreating figure of Prince Jingkang, watching as the number of people registered for Wen Yang by the civil officials seemed to have increased somewhat. The flow of people that should have been cut off along this long street had inexplicably doubled in size. The several civil officials arranged by Wang Shouqing were already trembling as they wrote, therefore, there was too much. The documents that the attendant was organizing beside him had already filled 2 entire boxes. Wang Shouqing went over and took a casual glance at them. It's such a trivial matter, as written above, when Yang helped me find a little cat. When Yang drove away the mountain bandits and saved my mother, wife, and children, due to the disaster at home, we were all saved by Wen Yang's relief efforts. Miaohe Town, Jiangnan Water Town, this is the signature of local farmers. The events encountered by the people of the capital city were relatively minor. Matters occurring in remote mountainous regions were comparatively significant. Nevertheless, even this minor incident required considerable effort and resulted in such a long queue. These major events were worth traveling great distances to recount. Wang Shouqing's heart was taut with tension. Go fetch some of my retainers to replace these civil officials. I need to pay a visit to the palace. Sir, let me prepare a carriage for you. No need. Stay here and keep watch. I can make the trip myself. Yes. Wang Shouqing went to the palace. He was preparing to go to Xiao Mingyu's quarters to report on the situation in the civilian population. However, he went to the study but didn't see anyone. There was also no one on the imperial court. When questioned by the eunuchs, they only claimed ignorance. Moreover, he had no desire to report anything further. He began chatting with some palace maids and guards who were walking in the front hall. As the mother of a nation, when Yang should have been faithfully staying within the palace, how could she frequently wander outside and accomplish so many good deeds? The eunuch who had been by His Majesty's side the longest said, Her Majesty the Empress is not favored, and you know that well. His Majesty hasn't been to the Hall of Harmony for years. The relationship between the Empress and the Empress Dowager isn't good either. She keeps her distance from the concubines of all the other palaces. The Empress is skilled in martial arts. Leaping over a wall is no big deal. Although that's true, after all these years. It's almost unbelievable that she's never been discovered. Lord Wang, have you forgotten? The guards at the palace gates are all raised by the Wen family, particularly Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu is loyal and honest. He follows every word and plan of the young lady of the Wen family. Although Xiao Wu may not be willing, would he really report his young lady to his superiors? With this explanation, Lord Wang understood. But Wang Shouqing still didn't understand. Why would the Empress be disfavored? With her sharp mind, intelligence, and martial prowess, she should find dealing with the palace intrigues so effortless. But why then? The eunuch let out a long sigh. His eyes showed repeated reluctance. His Majesty and the Empress were originally deeply in love. When they first married, His Majesty couldn't wait to leave the morning court and would spend every day in the Hall of Peace. But after the concubine A Yuan entered the palace, things gradually changed. Our Empress has many virtues. But she is just too jealous. She could not tolerate concubine A Yuan. Are you saying that the Empress's new-fashioned approach, forcing the Emperor to be faithful to one person for life? No, not at all. Considering the Ming family's status, if she had married someone from an ordinary family, perhaps such a request wouldn't be too high. But she's facing the Emperor, the one with the supreme authority of the 9-5 positions. How could that be possible? How could that be possible? Xiao Mingyu also thought the same way. When Wen Yangchu married him, she had said, "The man I want belongs to me alone for this lifetime." Xiao Mingyu, I don't care about your identity, but I like you, you like me, we're in love, so there can be no infidelity. If you do, then I won't have anything to do with you anymore. He smiled and said, okay. First, he truly loved her deeply. Second, he thought that romantic words between men and women were just that, couldn't be taken completely seriously. Not to mention that Wen Yang had no idea about Xiao Mingyu's true identity at that time. If Wen Yang had known she would become the mother of the nation, and that she was marrying into the Xiao family of the country, her attitude should have been different, just like Xiao Mingyu's several sisters. When a prince consort was invited into the princess's mansion, the consort would basically obey all the princess's commands. If one marries into another royal family or noble house, it depends on the strength of the husband's family. In this world, which powerful prince or nobleman doesn't have 3 or 4 wives? Exactly, none do. As an emperor, he certainly couldn't be so indulgent. When Yang entered the palace, the harem had already arranged for the 3 principal concubines along with countless lower-ranking ladies of rank. At that time, when Yang showed slight displeasure. But it passed quickly. The 2 newlyweds were as affectionate as glue and lacquer. The Prince of Xiao wished he could forego the morning court sessions daily, spending his days in a daze of indulgence in the realm of tenderness. When Yang is intelligent, she can understand memorial reports and also observe the political dynamics of the imperial court. When the 2 are together, besides matters of romance and nature's beauty, they also discuss current political issues, of course. They will also occasionally engage in scholarly debate. When Yang's martial arts skills were decent, but he would always hold back a bit in front of Xiao Mingyu, leaving him some face. At first, they were very, very good. Since Ayuan entered the palace, things had changed. Ayuan was something my mother absolutely insisted on bringing into the palace. I promise that regardless of whether Ayuan is here or not, the person I love most is still you alone. The affection between the 2 has reached the point where they address each other as you and I. Before Wen Yang, Xiao Mingyu is no longer an emperor, it's like the most ordinary husband and wife. But after a Yuan entered the palace, Wen Yang subjected a Yuan to all sorts of harassment. This gave Xiao Mingyu grounds to reproach her. Wen Yang, is this your integrity and honesty? Framing a Yuan, harming concubines, wanting to monopolize the emperor all for yourself. First, look at your own worthiness and whether you're fit to be worthy of me. In the past, it was he who had broken his word and wronged her. Now, when Yang's actions were something he was tolerating, the 2 of them should be even now. Xiao Mingyu thought to himself, first scold them a bit, and then comfort them. They should be the same as before. But when Yang was unwilling to accept this, she refused to see him. She refused to meet the emperor at the Peace Palace, even if he forced his way in. She would send him away under the pretext of reciting scriptures and chanting Buddha's name. The Empress Dowager said, "Women, one cannot indulge them too much. The way the Empress is behaving now is all because the Emperor has spoiled her too much. If I were to say, your favor should be distributed elsewhere, the harem should receive equal attention. The Empress, relying on her youth and beauty, has the Emperor completely under her thumb, acting recklessly without restraint. If the Emperor simply ignores her for a year or 2, she will become anxious. How many years of youth does a woman have? She will gradually understand this truth." The Empress Dowager had risen through the struggles among numerous concubines, understanding women's hearts best and knowing the Emperor's heart most thoroughly. Xiao Mingyu could no longer swallow his anger toward Wen Yang. When Yang doesn't see Xiao Mingyu, that Xiao Mingyu doesn't go look for her either. There will come a day when he can wait for Wen Yang to lower her guard and seek him out, and so he waits forever, waiting for 3 years. 3 years. His heart was ground into stone-like hardness and lusterlessness. He passed by the Hall of Peace several times. Inside the hall, laughter and joy filled the air. Wen Yang was doing so well without him. Occasionally he heard that she would leave the palace, finding some interesting things outside. Mahjong, this game, also came from the Pingyi Palace. She had done many things outside. At first, he would still inquire about her from time to time, unable to resist his curiosity about her recent circumstances. But as time went on and matters piled up, he ceased these actions. When Yang had become like a stranger living within the palace, there was no longer any intersection between them. Here are several times he went to the battlefield, also because of the recommendation of a loyal minister from the former dynasty. A fleeting glance from the imperial court, she never once raised her eyes to look at him. In Wen Yang's heart, he probably no longer had a place. Seated inside the Peace Palace, the 2 palace maids, Chunhua and Chuyue, stood trembling with fear as they served in the hall. The teacups had been replaced with hot ones 3 times after cooling down. 3 different varieties of pastries had also been served, however. Emperor Xiaoming had not drunk a single sip of water nor eaten a single bite of pastry. Until midnight, Xiao Mingyu left from the Pingyi Palace. I'll translate this Chinese text to English, looking at the sign at the wall's base one more time, which read, Xiao Mingyu and dogs are not allowed to enter. Note: Xiao Mingyu appears to be a Chinese name that should remain untranslate. And I've transliterated it as Xiao Mingyu following standard English transliteration conventions. It turned out my eyes were red again, June's rain, like pouring buckets of water, under the torrential downpour. All the ministers who came to court had their clothes soaked, their shoes were almost soaked through. Minister Liu saw Wang Shouqing and his attendants carrying 5 or 6 large suitcases into the imperial court and quickly stepped forward to lend a hand. Minister Wang, are all these things petitions from the people? Yes, absolutely, we must not let them get wet. It took quite a bit of time for the civil officials and their guests to collect all these materials. Minister Liu, please help out by using your sleeve to shield the raindrops. All right, very well. Minister Liu then called over several capable military officers to help transport the items into the palace. Inside the hall, everyone was breathing heavily. Some people in the shadows took off their shoes to drain the water. Their clothes were wet, so the eunuchs, being smart, brought cotton towels for the various gentlemen to wipe themselves. Court ceremonies placed the greatest emphasis on etiquette. Some adults were so drenched they didn't dare take off their clothes. Some adults were wise enough to hide their court robes in leather bags and keep them close to their chests, only changing into them once they arrived at court. The hall was damp, and the eunuchs kept wiping the floor repeatedly. Everyone had finished dressing and stood in their designated positions waiting for His Majesty to arrive, but it had been a long time, and they hadn't seen Xiao Mingyu around. When idle, Minister Liu asked Wang Shouqing, "How do you intend to explain these things to His Majesty?" Wang Shouqing took a deep breath. "I'll tell the truth." "How exactly are you going to tell the truth? Say that you made a mistake in your judgment." Wang Shouqing shook his head. "The evidence I was seeking has now lost its credibility, but these boxes of items are indeed from the people's mouths. As for Wen Yang, I can only offer this head as consolation." Minister Liu was startled. "Venerable Wang, it's not necessary." "It is necessary. Look at this court. You are the only one among us who was once my fellow student, the only one who would come close to me. If they start throwing accusations at each other before His Majesty, I'll surely be sentenced to death by autumn justice." Minister Liu's heart trembled. "But this case, you were following His Majesty's wishes." His Majesty has kindly encouraged me to pursue this path, but who knows what His Majesty is really thinking. It's truly a sorrowful matter that I have yet to serve the country, yet must die prematurely, if possible. I would prefer to imagine myself dying on the battlefield like our Queen, beloved by the people. Unfortunately, merely not being despised by all the people would already be a rather favorable ending. Wang Shouqing's eyes grew hot, and he forced 2 tears from his eyes. In this world, things never go quite as smoothly as one would wish. Wang Shouqing felt that today's discussion was probably his death sentence, but strangely enough, Xiao Mingyu, who had never missed the early court attendance, today, did not appear at court. However, once there was a first absence from court, there would be a second. Following that came a month's time. This diligent emperor had not once appeared before the officials. This naturally worried the officials, even more so the Empress Dowager. "What has the emperor been doing these past few days?" the Empress Dowager asked the eunuch standing beside the throne. The eunuch honestly replied, "The emperor has been in the Hall of Harmony these days, reading books, writing, and reviewing memorials every day. He doesn't seem to be ill, but he just loves talking to himself." The Empress Dowager frowned, placing her armored hand on her chest, her eyes full of confusion and bewilderment. What could one person possibly say? Surely he's just giving orders to the maids around him. "You old blind fool, shut up. Emperors don't attend court in the morning unless they're decadent or ill. Either way, it's not good for the country, especially since this young emperor has no heir yet. If he were truly ill, there would be no one to succeed him." Several princes stationed outside the capital had long been dissatisfied with this young emperor. If this news were to spread, who could say what moves those princes might make? The Empress Dowager was shrewd and calculating, immediately ordered someone to cut out the eunuch's tongue, warning others not to speak recklessly. Then he went to the palace of Consort Yuan. After dismissing his attendants, the Empress Dowager asked a Yuan about Emperor Xiao Mingyu's condition. Yuan yielded a sigh and shook her head. "I don't know what has happened to His Majesty either. He's currently inside the Hall of Peaceful Harmony. but won't come out. All I heard from the palace maids on shift was that His Majesty has been drawing all along. Drawing, yes, he's been drawing the late empress. Yuan handed the imperial consort a piece of paper that the palace maid had brought out from within to the empress dowager to see. Exactly this, on the rice paper. The figures were lifelike. When Yang was clad in armor, riding atop a fine horse, exuding an extraordinary air of vigor and masculinity, the empress dowager frowned slightly. She was clearly agitated. Then she turned to look at consort Yuan with a face full of reproach. You honestly tell me, have you and His Majesty consummated your marriage yet? Yuan was stunned for a moment. Her cheeks instantly flushed red, like the most dazzling cherry in summer. The empress dowager spoke again, questioning sharply. Yuan could only keep her tongue in her mouth, grit her teeth, and lower her head, then shook her head like a fan. The empress dowager's heart immediately clenched. What's wrong with you? After so long, the emperor has visited your palace so many times, and there's never been a single time it worked. Yuan lowered her blushing, egg-shaped face and said shyly, Empress Dowager, I really have tried my best. No matter what methods I've used, I couldn't make His Majesty. Here, Yuan could no longer continue speaking. The Empress Dowager didn't believe her. How could any man not be fond of women? Her son, although not her biological son, had been raised by her with her own hands, so it was impossible for him to have no interest in women. When Princess Wen first entered the palace, the emperor was so eager to spend every moment in the Hall of Peace. Clearly you haven't thought of enough methods. Didn't I tell you to learn from the old nursemaid? Why won't you study? Yuan's eyes were already red, tears brimming in her eyes. She choked back her sobs, feeling wronged and filled with a trace of bitterness and anger as she said, I've learned everything the old nursemaid taught me, truly everything. But His Majesty just won't. The despicable tricks that were used by women in the brothels, Yuan had learned every single one of them, even demonstrating with tools in front of the old wet nurse. But it didn't work, not at all. Chapter 17. The Empress Dowager stared in shock with her eyes wide open. How is that possible? When the emperor comes to see you, what else could he be doing besides these things? Yuan wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Your Majesty only stays for a short while when he comes, drinks some tea, eats some fruits, and has never stayed overnight. I was afraid Her Majesty would be displeased, so I never dared tell you the truth. She didn't dare to speak the truth, neither did she want to lose face. As a respected imperial consort, she had been in the palace for 3 years already. It's still a virgin, which would be so embarrassing to even mention. The wrinkles on the Empress Dowager's brow deepened even further, thinking back to the turbulent years in the imperial harem. Then she glanced at the face of Wen Yang on her hand. A long-buried memory surged up like a tide. Empress Dowager Xiao Mingyu, the mother of Xiao Mingyu, had indeed taken her own life by jumping into a lake because the emperor was dissatisfied with his concubine selection. Hadn't she? The late emperor was deeply devoted to Empress Dowager Xiao Mingyu, but she was jealous and vindictive. The late emperor had no choice but to arrange marriages to bring in concubines. In response, Empress Dowager Xiao Mingyu threatened with her own life. This woman valued love more than life itself. The Empress Dowager belonged to the Hu people, whose nature was fierce and passionate. There was absolutely no change in this nature due to her status, her country, or her clan. The Empress Dowager hanged herself to death on the very day the former emperor took concubines. It was this act that caused the emperor to regret for the rest of his life. The late emperor's beloved Empress Dowager De, she once said, I wish to trade my empire for a smile from her. His later neglect of governance, laziness, and decline into severe illness were all connected to the passing of Empress Dowager De. Thinking back to when Empress Dowager De passed away, Xiao Mingyu was still young and was adopted by the current Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager raised Xiao Mingyu herself, but he was only in his teens when the former emperor passed the throne to Xiao Mingyu. No one knew why an emperor in the prime of his life would make such a decision. It was either to prepare the young emperor for rule ahead of time, or perhaps the emperor wished to become a retired emperor and enjoy life in leisure. But on the very first morning of Xiao Mingyu's reign as emperor, the late emperor passed away. On his deathbed, he specially drafted an edict, it stated that after his death, he wished to be buried with the Empress Dowager in the same tomb. And no other concubines should be allowed to enter the imperial mausoleum. This meant that even as Empress Dowager, she would only be allowed to be placed in a palace mausoleum, not in the imperial mausoleum itself. The late emperor's deep affection for Empress Dowager De was truly earth-shattering. Now the same situation had fallen upon Xiao Mingyu. The Empress Dowager was simply unable to imagine what would happen next. Empress Dowager De had left behind a son. The late emperor had been concerned that his own son might be devoured by his brothers who were sworn to protect him, which is why he waited until the new emperor had ascended the throne before he finally paid his respects to Empress Dowager De. Now, when Yang has left nothing behind, if Xiao Mingyu really loses hope, the consequences would be truly unimaginable. Foreign enemies are causing disturbances, although the Chanyu has already requested peace. The damage inflicted on the Chanyu's side during the last battle was minimal. There's always the possibility of making a comeback. There are also various vassal kings stirring up trouble across the land. If they found out what happened to the emperor, wouldn't they raise their armies and march to the capital to rebel even earlier? The Empress Dowager thought about it more and more, and her fear grew. Therefore, she didn't bother about what happened to concubine and Yuan, but immediately summoned people and went to the Pingyi Palace. She had to stay by Xiao Mingyu's side, ensure the emperor's safety. Absolutely no harm must come to him. Exiting the concubine's palace, the Empress Dowager hastily had the eunuch beside her summon several trusted ministers from the court to the Empress Dowager's sleeping chamber. Have them come quickly. I will attend to His Majesty first, then I will come. Also, call over Lady Lu Wanna, the eldest daughter-in-law from the Wen family. Say that I wish to discuss an important matter with her. Inside the heavily peace hall, the Empress Dowager came in haste. 3 or 5 palace maids were guarding in front of the door. The palace maids, upon seeing the Empress Dowager, all prostrated and knelt down. No one knew why, but why had this peace hall become so lively recently? People from all walks of life were coming. The emperor comes every day, the concubine comes occasionally. Now the Empress Dowager has also come. Isn't their peace hall supposed to be the cold palace? Why did it suddenly get hot? Seeing the palace maids, the Empress Dowager Lai questioned, "Why are you all outside? Where is the emperor?" The head palace maid replied, "His Majesty is inside the hall, saying he wants some solitude, so he had the maids wait at the entrance, and he also said not to let anyone disturb him." The Empress Dowager's expression darkened. The palace maid stared with wide eyes, and with the assistance of a eunuch, directly entered the hall. After walking around the sleeping hall, no sign of Xiao Mingyu was found. The Empress Dowager was startled and immediately ordered the eunuchs to search for him. But throughout the entire Pingyi Hall, Xiao Mingyu was nowhere to be seen. Only some faint images left behind in the study that belonged to Wen Yang. The Empress Dowager clenched her palms tightly. Her heart was already panicked. Below the city gate, a brute man wore armor, with a pair of axes placed on the table behind him. Only his 2 hands held a wine jar. He drank wine, his eyes never leaving that secret door. 4 years in the palace. Apart from the first year, Xiao Wu rarely saw Wen Yang elsewhere. In the following 3 years, as long as Wen Yang was in the imperial city, he could almost see Wen Yang coming out through this small gate every day. Sometimes he wore the attire of a eunuch, sometimes he was dressed as a palace maid. There are also men's clothing, military uniforms, all sorts of clothes, said to be all handmade by her. Today we're going boating on the lake. I've invited a few nice girls. Xiao Wu, do you want to come with me? It's the New Year holiday. I need to bring some delicious food and drinks for those little beggars. How can we have a proper New Year without some tasty treats? Xiao Wu, did you buy the fireworks and firecrackers I asked you to prepare? Come on, let's skip work and go together. Tonight is the day my father and older brothers are buried. They should be watching over me from heaven, right? Xiao Wu, mother must be heartbroken again, but I don't dare go to see her. If she sees me in these men's clothes, she'll think of my brothers and father. Mother always said I don't look like her, that I look like father. None of my brothers looked like. Last year I wore these clothes to see mother, and mother cried all night. Her eyes were swollen. I felt so sorry for her. But my mother was happy. because she knew my father only loved her in his heart. When I entered the palace, mother strongly opposed it. Back then I didn't understand, but now I can understand. Not everyone can be like father, who loved mother with all his heart for a lifetime. Xiao Wu, do you have a girl you like? You're blushing, so you definitely do. Shall I ask grandma to find you a match? You were raised by the Wen family, and although you're an adopted son, your status is good enough for a good family. Which family's daughter is it? Tell me, quickly tell me. Wen Yang's bright face won't leave Xiao Wu's mind. All the anguish was hidden beneath his heart. He had once thought of giving up everything and leaving the imperial palace, that prison, with Wen Yang, but another gulp of strong liquor was swallowed down his throat. The stinging irritation made tears well up in his eyes. This little door could never be opened again. No one would ever come out from inside again. Calling out his name Xiao Wu, he wiped the tears from his eyes, stood up, and prepared to go back. But at the small door, a sound suddenly came. With a creak, the small door was actually opened. Seeing the small door being opened, Xiao Wu's eyes were filled with a flood of tears. Already looking forward to hearing Wei Yang's Xiao Wu. Is that going to be the rumor that spreads? The high-up-do hairstyle, blue ribbon, wearing light blue men's clothing. In that moment, Xiao Wu almost believed that Wei Yang had returned. She liked light blue. The most favorite male clothing color is light blue. She also got used to holding a paper fan in her hand, saying, "Holding a fan makes me look more spirited and heroic." She even learned a few fan martial arts moves for this reason. But she also suffered many injuries from showing off her coolness. According to Wen Yang's words, it was overdoing it. Wen Yang, have you returned? As long as you're willing to come back, Xiao Wu will give you whatever you want. The shuttle cakes outside the city, the candied fruits from South City, the snacks from North City. Xiao Wu will take you to buy them all. A sob. Xiao Wu finally saw clearly who had crawled out from the small door. It wasn't Wen Yang. Why wouldn't it be Wen Yang? Why would it be Xiao Mingyu? Xiao Mingyu, take your clothes off. Those are Wen Yang's clothes. You're not worthy of wearing them. With a roar, Xiao Wu greedily grabbed the two axes behind his back and immediately leaped forward, swinging straight toward Xiao Mingyu. Xiao Mingyu's brows slightly furrowed, and his fan in hand came out instinctively to defend himself. It was also at the moment Xiao Wu saw the folding fan in Xiao Mingyu's hand that a pair of axes veered off course and struck the table beside him. The wooden table immediately shattered into two halves. His momentum was like a rainbow, and he still managed to wound Xiao Mingyu, forcing him to let go of his fan in shock. Seeing the folding fan being thrown into the air, Xiao Wu, who treasured his axe more than his own life, suddenly dropped it on the ground and rushed forward to catch the folding fan. Xiao Wu held the folding fan in his palms, tears falling heavily. Xiao Mingyu's eyes also tightened. This was Xiao Wu. He had been promoted to general multiple times but refused every time, choosing only to stand guard at the gate. He guarded here, for this small door. No, more precisely, he guarded here for someone, for Wen Yang. This was why Wen Yang could leave the palace so easily. Xiao Wu had guarded this post for Wen Yang for 3 whole years. Watching Xiao Wu hold the folding fan like a priceless treasure, it was as if the fan itself was Wen Yang. The concern and pain in his eyes brought tears to Xiao Mingyu's eyes too. Xiao Wu was just a warrior. How dare he grieve for his empress? He pressed his lips together and reached out to snatch the folding fan. Xiao Mingyu moved quickly, grabbing one end of the fan and preparing to pull it away. Xiao Wu was shocked and quickly grabbed the other end. Xiao Wu, look clearly who I am. Xiao Wu was a subject. Xiao Mingyu was the son of heaven. Yet at this moment, Xiao Wu was actually snatching something from the son of heaven. Xiao Wu sneered, I don't care who you are, this fan belongs to a Yang. A filthy person like you is not worthy to touch her things. He actually called Xiao Mingyu filthy. Xiao Mingyu channeled his internal energy and struck out with a palm. Xiao Wu dodged. Despite his large build, he was agile and nimble. Even wearing full armor, he easily flipped over. His hand clutching the fan refused to let go. Xiao Mingyu gritted his teeth, attacking with all his might as if he wanted to break the man's hand. Xiao Wu felt the heat coming from the other end of the fan. He also realized that if the stalemate continued, the fan would likely be shattered into pieces. But this was Wen Yang's favorite folding fan. It had birds painted by her, birds that could sing. Tears welled up in Xiao Wu's eyes again. In the end, he couldn't bear it, and this moment of hesitation was easily caught by Xiao Mingyu. Then, Xiao Wu let go. The folding fan fell firmly into Xiao Mingyu's hand. Xiao Wu's eyes were red with hatred for Xiao Mingyu, mixed with unspeakable heartache. Xiao Wu grieved for the fan, and for Wen Yang, he saw the fan as an extension of Wen Yang. So, Xiao Wu let go. He would rather give up than cause harm. The moment he realized this, Xiao Mingyu's mind went boom and he was almost stunned. Why do you call Wen Yang a yang? Xiao Wu never thought Xiao Mingyu would ask such a question. Because of this question, Xiao Wu glanced at Xiao Mingyu again. In that glance, he caught a hint of shock in Xiao Mingyu's eyes. Xiao Wu suddenly burst out laughing. He laughed for Wen Yang. Ha 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 ha, I've called her a yang for more than 10 years. I never thought about why. Maybe it's because we grew up together, and she told me to call her that when we first met. Or maybe it's because a yang's elder brothers, father, mother, and grandmother called her that. So I did too. Xiao Mingyu, it's just a name. How can you care so much? I always thought you didn't love her. I never imagined you just refused to admit it. A yang. Look, this man who promised you a lifetime of devotion is starting to regret it now that you're dead. He's just like his father. He didn't cherish what he had when he had it. Now that you're gone, turned to ashes, he's starting to regret it. But regret is useless. A yang. You were right. No man in the world is as good as the men of the Wen family. Your mother waited for your father her whole life. And your father only had your mother. That's real love. Someone like Xiao Mingyu is not worthy of your love. Xiao Wu shouted towards the sky, as if venting his anger. Each cry stabbed at Xiao Mingyu's heart. Xiao Mingyu, tell me why. Why on earth did you execute Wen Yang? You obviously loved her. Why didn't you send reinforcements to the 800 female generals of the Wen family? Why were those 800 female generals your enemies? Did you have to send them to their deaths like that? They were daughters raised by 800 families who wouldn't cherish their own daughter, yet you sent them to the battlefield to be trampled by the enemy for no reason. As he spoke, Xiao Wu's anger flared up again. No reinforcements came. Wen Yang fought desperately to keep her life, but in the end, you chopped off her head. She was your wife, the woman you swore to protect for the rest of your life. How could you? Xiao Mingyu pressed his lips tightly together. The scene of discussing military strategy with General Yaojiang in the barracks was still fresh in his mind. Yaojiang had proposed using the 800 female generals as bait to lure the enemy into Tongyu Valley, then launching a joint attack. But Yaojiang betrayed them halfway. All the reinforcements turned into rebels and joined the Jurchen tribe. They were trapped in the rear, facing countless troubles. The elite troops he later dispatched were the imperial forest guards secretly transferred from the palace. Fearing that feudal lords everywhere would learn of the capital's emptiness and rebel, he had no choice but to temporarily suppress the news of Yaojiang's betrayal. But the fact that there were rebels remained. So many soldiers had seen it, there was no way it was a lie. Thus, he had to use a diversionary tactic, pinning the crime of treason on Wen Yang. At the same time, he had thought that since Wen Yang was captured, spreading such news was probably the best arrangement for her. Wen Yang had once saved the Chanyu's life. The Chanyu had fought against Xiao Mingyu before. He should be a man who repaid kindness. After all, to become the king of the Jurchens, he must have admirable and trustworthy qualities, but he had misjudged the Chanyu's character. The king of the Jurchens did spare Wen Yang's life, but he also seized Xiao Mingyu's weakness. He had Wen Yang executed, making her head fall before Xiao Mingyu's eyes. He let Wen Yang die in front of him. Blood sprayed everywhere, reddening the sky over the battlefield. The smell of blood filled his nostrils, the warm, sticky texture, like a nightmare that haunted him endlessly. Inside the Empress Dowager's palace, several loyal ministers stood guard. Minister Liu paced back and forth, his face grave. Wang Shoucheng sat drinking tea, showing no emotion. Sensor Fang tapped his fingers, opening his eyes slightly as he watched the pacing Minister Liu. He couldn't help but say, "Minister Liu, you're not young anymore. Don't act like you did when you were young." Pacing back and forth is tiring. Minister Liu wiped the sweat from his forehead, not stopping his steps. I can't be as calm as the two of you. The Empress Dowager must have summoned us about His Majesty. I've been thinking these past 2 days, His Majesty hasn't been right since he returned from the battlefield. Usually, anyone who has been to war, whether general or emperor, would rest for a while. But when His Majesty came back, he immediately started working on various constructions and policies, working day and night as if his life depended on it. After Wen Yang's case, he sat on the dragon throne for days without sleeping or resting. Not even an owl could endure that. Now he hasn't held court for more than 30 days, there's definitely a problem. Our emperor is most likely ill, and seriously ill at that. Wang Shouqing and Censor Fang glanced at him, almost agreeing. Wang Shouqing took a sip of tea and asked, since the Empress Dowager summoned us, she wants us to discuss a solution. Do either of you have any insightful ideas? Censor Fang rolled his sore shoulders and yawned. No. This lazy response made Minister Liu even more anxious. Really? Even if you're about to retire, you shouldn't be so perfunctory. You're a veteran of 3 dynasties. After all, Censor Fang smacked his lips and asked, then do you have any ideas? Minister Liu was left tongue-tied. If he had a solution, he wouldn't be so anxious, so the two turned their eyes to Wang Shouqing. What about you, Minister Wang? Wang Shouqing sighed softly. I do have one. But, it's not easy to implement. Let's wait a little longer. Madam Wen has arrived. A loud announcement came from outside, led by palace maids. Lu Wanna walked in. This Lu Wanna, the eldest daughter-in-law of the Wen family, was the daughter of the richest merchant in Jiangnan. At the old madam's funeral, Lu Wanna had worn mourning clothes, plain from head to toe. Her delicate face looked somewhat gentle against the pale mourning attire, now entering the palace to advise the Empress Dowager. She didn't wear luxurious clothes or hairpins, there wasn't a single piece of jewelry on her that could make a sound, but this only accentuated Lu Wanna's natural beauty. Qianqian's slender waist was like a willow branch, just like snow covering southern Jiangnan, her reflection in the cold pond frowning and flying. Wenbin's clear jade pressed in the middle hall, Shan walking slowly, every move and shift, beautiful beyond description. The other 2 gentlemen, each with their own thoughts, couldn't help but glance at Lu Wanna a few more times. Wang Shouqing, even though he had already met Lu Wanna and knew her, still nodded to each other. Then came the wait for the Empress Dowager. 2 more teacups were brought out, 2 more fruit boxes were added to the tray. Palace maids and eunuchs served in the hall, all perfectly silent. It was already late afternoon, just about time for the sun to set. When the Empress Dowager finally arrived, she came in a rush, in a panic. Even her hair ornaments were slightly disheveled, compared to her usual solemnity and majesty. The Empress Dowager now seemed to have a touch more humanity about her. Your Excellencies, everyone, I'm afraid I'm late, but I truly had no choice. The Emperor has disappeared, he's been missing since noon. We've searched the entire palace, but there's no sign of him. I'm afraid the Emperor might have lost hope and done something like his predecessor did all those years ago. The 4 people inside the hall were greatly alarmed. They never expected something like this to happen. The Empress Dowager was already at her wit's end. Facing these 4 people, she had already considered whether or not to inform them of this major matter. Wang Shouqing was a close confidant of Xiao Mingyu who had promoted him personally, so he was naturally no problem. Fang Yusha was a veteran of 3 dynasties, when his father was alive. He had already entered the imperial court as an official. A veteran of 3 dynasties surely had his reasons for surviving through 3 dynasties. He should know exactly which words to say and which to avoid. Although Minister Liu had a quick temper, he was a fellow student of Wang Shouqing, and his true nature was good. This could be seen from his constant references to loyalty to Xiao and love of country in his speech. The only variable, perhaps, would be Lu Wanna. This woman was the daughter of the wealthiest merchant in the capital, the eldest of the Wen family, and now a widow living alone. Her husband, children, and in-laws were all gone, yet she still managed the household single-handedly. But just now, when she had been observing Lu Wanna from outside the door, she had stared at her for quite a while, although the woman appeared to be a frail, gentle soul. The coldness in her eyes revealed to the Empress Dowager that Lu Wanna possessed considerable skills. Otherwise, how could the massive Wen family remain stable and secure in the capital, especially with almost no male heirs left in the household? The capital city appears prosperous on the surface, but beneath it lies hidden turmoil. A large piece of meat belonging to the Wen family. How many people are coveting it? After listening to the Empress Dowager's account, Lu Wanna stood silently and firmly beside her. Her complete silence only added to the Empress Dowager's anxiety. If the entire palace has already been searched, then see if they've gone outside the palace. Having gone outside the palace, it's going to be troublesome to look for people. Actually, it would be fine if he went outside the palace, but I'm afraid he didn't go outside the palace, and instead did something foolish in some corner inside the palace. The Empress Dowager's legs went weak. This great Zhou dynasty's kingdom empire cannot possibly end like this. This matter cannot be publicized. The border is stirring, and those vassal kings are also restless. If the emperor shows any sign of weakness, the spies he has inside the palace or in the capital will definitely find out. Right now, we absolutely cannot panic, but without His Majesty present, some rumors will inevitably spread. What should we do? The fact that the emperor is not attending court has already leaked out. Ming and Wang is coming to probe the situation. He's even requesting an audience with His Majesty first thing tomorrow morning. What should we do? The crowd fell silent, all at a loss for what to do, besides finding people. Dealing with Ming and Wang was particularly important at the moment. The Empress Dowager looked once more at Lu Wanna, who was calm beside her, and lowered her voice, asking specifically, "Lady Wen, I would like to hear your opinion." Lu Wanna was startled for a moment, but quickly composed herself. She also knew that pretending to be an observer would probably not be possible, so she pondered for a moment and said, "Your Majesty's disappearance is of utmost importance, and Prince Mingan's request to see you is particularly difficult to handle. If I may say so, perhaps we could employ the strategy of substituting one for another." How would one substitute? All four pairs of eyes fell upon Lu Wanna. The anxiety in their gazes was imaginable. Lu Wanna sighed. Indeed, for the ministers in the court and for the Empress Dowager, the empire always mattered more than life itself. Now, no one cared anymore whether this new emperor was alive or dead. She was actually somewhat afraid that once these words were spoken, the entire historical landscape would change because of it. She pursed her lips and said, "Prince Jinkang has a talented heir who is about the same age as His Majesty, and his build is quite similar as well. Even though his face bears a striking resemblance to his lineage, he is quite alike. More importantly, the heir has spent years learning from the legendary martial artists of the wandering sects, mastering the art of disguise so thoroughly that he can easily create human skin masks to mimic others. Furthermore, under the guidance of Prince Jinkang, the heir has read extensively the classics, excelling in martial arts, literature, and knowledge. His speech and etiquette reflect the grace of a true gentleman. Therefore, let the Crown Prince take the lead first." The Empress Dowager immediately understood. The three ministers were stunned for a moment, feeling it seemed unreasonable, but also acknowledging it was a necessary measure. Besides, the Crown Prince was also part of the royal nobility. If the Crown Prince were sufficiently competent, if Xiao Mingyu were truly dead, then there would not have been such turmoil in the nation. Then let us proceed with this plan for now. The Empress Dowager spoke decisively. The three ministers exchanged glances, bowed to the Empress Dowager, and each couldn't help but marvel at how Lady Lu Wanna came to know these things. This secluded palace woman, who had never ventured beyond the inner chambers, somehow knew the secrets that none of them were aware of. As expected, the Wen family had no ordinary people among them. Ming and Wang emerged from the imperial court. He shook out his sleeves, feeling thoroughly disgruntled. Under the prostrations of numerous eunuchs and palace women, the palace gate was exited. Outside the palace gate, a carriage had been waiting for a long time. Prince Mingan boarded the carriage, and it began to move. The vehicle traveled over the tiled pavement, bouncing up and down. A cup of tea was placed in front of Prince Mingan. The prince looked coldly at the person beside him who was offering the tea, feeling dissatisfied. "You said that young Master Xiao Mingyu is no longer inside the palace. Then what did this prince see today was a ghost? Chan Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. Prince, are you certain? This prince is not blind. I can still tell whether it's Xiao Mingyu or not. Prince Ming'an snorted coldly. The prince's army is already ambushing outside the city. I originally intended to use the Jurchen's hands as an excuse to occupy the palace. Now that it's done, it's been a waste of effort and money. The prince will now dismiss the army and let them return home. Chan Yu smiled slightly. It's not that bad. As long as Prince Ming'an has the intention, if the Jurchens launch a surprise attack on the palace, and the prince enters the palace under the pretext of rescuing the emperor. It's not impossible. How could that be possible? You fought against Xiao Mingyu before. Don't you know the methods of our emperor? He's ruthless. Even the prince, who has experienced many hardships and changes, is not as cruel as he is. Chan Yu suddenly recalled the scene of his previous battle with Xiao Mingyu. At the moment he severed the head of the woman who would replace Wen Yang, Xiao Mingyu leaped from his horse, his sword narrowly cutting off his hand. Prince Ming'an looked at the empty sleeve of the Chan Yu and couldn't help but sneer. There are tens of thousands of Yulin guards in the imperial city, and Xiao Mingyu has over 1,000 assassins. If Xiao Mingyu were safe, these people would surely all be within the imperial city. Although the army Prince Ming'an brought is brave and fierce, they fight with open weapons, unable to match these hidden foes. This expedition can only be abandoned. The Chan Yu slightly pressed his lips together. His face darkening several shades, he raised his eyes to look at Prince Ming'an, his eyes revealing a fierce and ruthless glint. Prince Ming'an, the concubine Yuan should still be within the palace. The prince should know the purpose of my visit, since the prince no longer requires my assistance. Regarding the matter of concubine and Yuan, the prince's previous promise, nature doesn't count. Do I need to say that? Prince Ming'an was arrogant and unmanageable, and being in the capital city, he completely looked down on this Jurchen king, the Chan Yu. There were even killers already posted outside the carriage, waiting for him to get off. Once he did, the surrounding arrows would attack him and leave the Chan Yu dismembered. The carriage was still moving forward slowly. The teacup in the Chan Yu's hand remained full. The teacup in Prince Ming'an's hand was already empty. When the carriage came to a stop, Prince Ming'an impatiently wanted to get out. But the Chan Yu grabbed him and smiled slightly. Your Highness, there's still one thing left to do. Prince Ming'an was stunned, then suddenly felt his head split with pain. Before collapsing, Prince Ming'an looked at the tea in the cup, and suddenly understood. You put it in the water. Yes, breakheart powder. It takes about half a day to take effect. There are famous physicians in the capital who can counter this poison. If given the chance, you might still live. I trouble you, Prince, to take me to the capital. The debt I owe you, I'll repay you in my next life. Having said that, he put on the outer robe of Prince Ming'an and then got into the carriage. The groom glanced at His Royal Highness, then gave hand signals to the hidden guards around him. Whoosh, 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 several sounds pierced through the wind. The long arrow pierced into the carriage, and blood soon dripped from the gaps in the carriage, staining a patch of floor tiles. The most prosperous place in the capital city. Many people gathered around. The coachman approached with a delighted expression, opened the carriage door, and his face immediately turned to one of terror. A scream pierced the sky. Prince Ming'an was assassinated in the street by thugs. Wen's mansion, Lu Wanna, upon leaving the palace, immediately heard the news of Prince Ming'an's death. She hurried back to the mansion without stopping, and the servant at the gate quickly approached, holding a horse step, and helped Lu Wanna down from the carriage. Madam, fortunately you have returned. The second and third ladies have been waiting for you all night. You should go back and see them. Lu Wanna knew that these younger sisters-in-law were worried about her, so she quickly entered the mansion. In the hall, the two ladies were accompanied by a slightly older daughter-in-law. And upon seeing Lu Wanna arrive, they immediately stood up to ask if she was safe and well. Lu Wanna briefly recounted her experiences in the palace, mentioning nothing of the emperor's disappearance. This matter can be big or small, and certainly cannot leak any information to the Wen family. Several younger brothers and sisters-in-law, seeing that Lu Wanna was unharmed, were persuaded to return to their rooms for rest. Lu Wanna also prepared to go back and freshen up. Thinking about everything that happened last night, Her head was still swelling quite a bit. The Empress Dowager dragged her all night, rambling on about this and that, implying that the eldest son of the second master's family, Changfeng, should deliver him to the military camp. If all the men from the Wen family were still alive, Changfeng, who was 15 years old, should have gone to the military camp by now, but all the older generation from the Wen family had already passed away. Changfeng going to the military camp would only mean suffering. The Empress Dowager promised her that she would definitely be well taken care of, but without military achievements, any favor shown would mostly be viewed with jealousy and resentment by others. Changfeng was the new favorite of the second lady, and it was ultimately impossible to justify that. Besides, Lu Wanna didn't want to. She didn't have those patriotic sentiments. She just wanted to protect this family and let everyone grow up healthy and strong. Matters of war and the military afterward had nothing to do with the Wen family. She just didn't know if the Empress Dowager would continue to cause her trouble later on. Xiao Mingyu was never the Empress Dowager's biological son to begin with. Whether he disappeared or died, she didn't care. As long as there was someone sitting on the dragon throne now, her position as Empress Dowager would remain unthreatened. Prince Jingkang was loyal to the dynasty and patriotic. It wouldn't be difficult to have him produce an heir apparent. Once Prince Jingkang is willing to return to court, and the current heir apparent can secure his hold on the empire, we can then find some excuse later to officially legitimize the heir apparent's position. Everything will be easily resolved. The crown prince was fundamentally weaker in military affairs. The battlefield lacked a capable and reliable leader. And the future was uncertain. This was the Empress Dowager's intention. She had grasped the Wei family's weakness, their belief that military achievements and honor were more precious than life itself. What to do? The uncles and elders of the Wen family who were still alive definitely hoped that Changfeng and the several younger ones would go to the battlefield one after another, in order to secure their future honor. The pressure from above was so great, and Changfeng was still so young. After thinking it over and over, Lu Wanna also felt that she should wait until Changfeng got married and had children, then ask for his willingness before discussing the matter of going to the military camp. The pressure from above had to be borne. Lu Wanna rubbed her temples, then heard a hurried footsteps coming from the corridor. Her eyes sharpened, and she immediately followed the sound inside. To her surprise, it was Xiao Wu. "Why aren't you on duty today? Why did you come back all of a sudden?" Xiao Wu looked utterly defeated, stammering and stumbling over his words. Lu Wanna's pregnancy was in trouble, and she was afraid that Xiao Wu had done something extreme because of his sadness over Wen Yang. "What's wrong? You go first and speak up, otherwise how can I help you?" "Madam, I've gotten into trouble. I slashed someone." "He was slashed. It's a real big deal." "Slashed whom, man or woman? When did they draw their weapons first? Tell me everything from start to finish." The words were on the tip of her tongue when Lu Wanna suddenly smelled the scent of blood. She looked over and saw Xiao Mingyu lying on the ground, blood still flowing from his chest. Xiao Wu actually slashed the current emperor. Lu Wanna's legs gave out, and she nearly fell down. Even after experiencing countless storms, she had never seen anyone dare to slash His Majesty. Lu Wanna immediately told Xiao Wu to go get the medicine box from her room. In her early years, she followed her father to Jiangnan and apprenticed under a renowned physician, honing her medical skills. Her expertise was further refined through her husband's many old and new injuries over the years. After examining the wounds, Lu Wanna let out a sigh of relief. Taking out trauma medicine and gauze from her medicine case, she bandaged him up and then carried him to bed for rest. "The wound isn't deep, he's lost quite a bit of blood, but is not in danger. I'll prepare a few prescriptions to replenish his blood and qi. He should recover in a few days." Xiao Wu heard these words and let out a long sigh. Lu Wanna poked Xiao Wu on the head with one hand. "What's wrong with you? I've told you countless times to stay calm. How can you still be so impulsive? How did Yang possibly teach you?" Xiao Wu pursed his lips, his eyes on the verge of tearing up from being so aggrieved. Lu Wanna couldn't scold him further, so she took a deep breath and said, "Fine, just keep your mouth shut and don't tell anyone outside. Wait until his injuries heal, then I'll come apologize again." Xiao Wu hummed and turned around to leave. Watching Xiao Wu's forlorn figure, Lu Wanna couldn't help but feel sorry for him. the matter of Wen Yang, it had made too many people sad. But she simply had no way to tell everyone that Wen Yang was still alive. Wen Yang was her daughter, the one and only daughter she loved most dearly, for her daughter's safety. She couldn't tell anyone. Then, Lu Wanna glanced once more at the person on the bed. A sense of disgust welled up in her heart, but he ultimately couldn't afford to be careless. What shape this world would take, he probably still held the final say. Midnight, a faint fragrance drifted into Xiao Mingyu's nostrils. It was the bitterness of the plain tea, very faint and subtle, but Xiao Mingyu, still in a daze, could still smell it. He opened his eyes. Opening the door, he found the medicine boy who was guarding the entrance already fast asleep. Xiao Mingyu followed the scent as he passed through the main hall, backyard, woodshed, all the way to the depths of the secret forest. The backyard of the Wen family estate happened to be planted with a grove of bamboo. The moonlight was bright and clear, casting white light upon the ground. His shadow stumbled forward. He felt his way to the depths. The joy in his heart made him feel no pain from the wound on his chest. Blood flowed and soaked through his clothes, yet it couldn't stop him from moving forward. Finally, a faint light gradually appeared from within the dense forest. A wisp of green smoke slowly rose from the chimney and drifted upward. That was a bamboo house built on the lake surface. The emerald green color looked brand new. A woman with long hair hanging over her shoulders sat on the veranda, her bare feet swinging over the lake surface, delicate little feet, with the big toe slightly curled, inexpressibly lazy and comfortable. The woman wore all white, with an orange chiffon shawl draped over her, the smooth fabric creating a fresher visual impact. Delicate fingers twisted around the rim of the teacup, slowly bringing it to her lips, like cherries, red and slightly pouting. After she could finally see the face partially obscured by her hair, Xiao Mingyu's eyes reddened again. Wen Yang is alive. She had appeared again. Silent sobs burst from her throat and she desperately tried to push them down, the pain making him grasp his collar. Ecstatic joy, devastating sorrow. Xiao Mingyu's steps dared not advance any further. I didn't expect you to find her after all. A clear, cold voice. Xiao Mingyu turned to see Lu Wanna standing by his side. How long had she been there? Xiao Mingyu pressed his lips together tightly. Thousands of words swirled in his mind, but only one came out. I'm sorry. I'll leave now. Wait, Lu Wanna called out to him, and said, since His Majesty has come, why not accompany me to visit Wen Yang? She is also lonely. On the lake surface, on the bamboo raft, Lu Wanna supported herself with the bamboo pole, slowly gliding toward the bamboo house in the lake center. The warm-faced Wen Yang, with a delighted expression, waved her hand from afar toward Lu Wanna. Once Lu Wanna climbed onto the house's corridor, Wen Yang rushed straight into her arms. Mother, where have you been these past 2 days? It's been so long since you came to see your daughter. Lu Wanna ruffled Wen Yang's hair, scolding her with fond reproach, saying, why did you undo your hair bun again? Didn't you like the daughter's updo I made for you? Wen Yang rubbed her face against Lu Wanna's chest. It looks nice, but it's uncomfortable. I don't like things like that, so I took it apart. Daughters should tie up their hair. How can they behave like this? Anyway, there's no one else here. It doesn't matter. She laughed heartily, and her eyes fell on Xiao Mingyu behind Lu Wanna. Mother, who is this person? Why is he wearing a mask? Xiao Mingyu's mask was given to him by Lu Wanna. It was because Lu Wanna said, Wen Yang has developed trauma after the battle and cannot bear to see familiar faces. Of course, this notion of familiar face wasn't limited to family members. Lu Wanna is Wen Yang's mother, the woman Wen Yang loves most. Only in front of Lu Wanna is Wen Yang normal. Lu Wanna said to Wen Yang, he is one of mother's old acquaintances. He heard that your health has improved greatly, so he came to visit you. Wen Yang stood barefoot on the bamboo planks and even spun around to show that she was truly better. Thank you for coming to see me. Where's the gift? Wen Yang's hand immediately reached toward Lu Wanna. Xiao Mingyu was startled, clearly feeling a bit embarrassed. Lu Wanna reached out to slap Wen Yang's palm. What are you doing? No manners. Wen Yang frowned and pouted. No gift. Grandfather always brings me many nice things every time he comes. Look at you. Grandfather has spoiled you so much. He really has no sense of boundaries. Lu Wanna was currently educating her daughter. Xiao Mingyu pulled out a folding fan from his chest. Xiao Wu said that this folding fan was Wen Yang's most favorite thing. If he gave it to her, she would probably be happy. The folding fan fell into Wen Yang's hands, delicate fan handle, magnificent tassels, the pale blue color, falling into Wen Yang's eyes, was one of delight. This was something she had originally loved. Now that she had it in her hands, naturally she liked it. Then, she immediately began to unfold it. On the folding fan, there was a painting of a herd of galloping horses. The horses were spirited and majestic, raising a cloud of dust as they ran. The mountains and rivers were vast and magnificent. Under the blue sky, there was also a poem attached to it. The dragon's spine is adorned with coins, silver hooves white as smoke. No one weaves brocade for the horse's saddle. Who forges a golden whip? This writes of the battlefield, it also writes of war horses. It was the moment when Wen Yang opened her folding fan. When the previously docile girl seemed to be possessed by some kind of madness, she let out a sudden loud scream, and Lu Wanna realized something was wrong. Quickly rushing forward to embrace Wen Yang, Yanga, it's okay, mother's here. But Wen Yang continued screaming. There was no focus in her eyes, her body trembling. She said, Mother, so much blood, they're all dead, I killed so many people, but there were too many enemies. I couldn't possibly kill them all. Mother, save me, my face. She grabbed her own cheek fiercely. The human skin on her cheek was instantly torn open. A face covered in scars and wounds was revealed before Xiao Mingyu, gash-like scars, starting from her forehead and spreading down to her chin. It was enough to shock the heart. Yet the scars on her face were not enough. There were also the ones on her body. It was only when she was struggling and writhing that Xiao Mingyu finally saw that there wasn't a single healthy patch of flesh above her ankle. Lu Wanna finally managed to calm down Wen Yang after great effort. She also used calming incense for her, and she eventually fell asleep. When she was asleep, she didn't forget to treat the injuries on Wen Yang's body. One was on her calf, one is at the shoulder blade, there's another one on the face. The 3 wounds all originated from the battlefield. No one knows exactly who inflicted them. The small injuries on her body were of no concern, countless in number, but all had scabbed over and healed. Lu Wanna was heartbroken seeing her beautiful daughter turned into such a state, afraid that Wen Yang would be frightened by her reflection in the mirror, so she searched everywhere for experts skilled in human skin grafting. Finally, she learned from Prince Jingkang that the Crown Prince was capable of performing such a procedure. She then made her request before the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince agreed to help, but set a prerequisite condition. He asked Lu Wanna to help him sit on the imperial throne. Even Prince Jingkang was unaware of this condition. Initially, Lu Wanna refused, but the heir prince said, "Just help me deliver a message to the palace, and it has nothing to do with treason, on the contrary. It's actually saving the country." At that time, Lu Wanna could never have imagined that this prince heir had already foreseen this very moment. Thinking this, her heart shuddered slightly, and she immediately snapped back to her senses. When she looked toward Xiao Mingyu again, his shoulders were slightly trembling. It was fear, it was shame. "Your Majesty, please return," Lu Wanna spoke, and only then did Xiao Mingyu lift his gaze toward Lu Wanna. Xiao Mingyu did not respond to Lu Wanna's words, but instead asked, when did she return? The matter of Wen Yang's return was also suspicious. When the old lady passed away, the entire city's people and prominent nobles all came to pay their respects, including the Prince of Jingkang and his heir apparent, who also arrived at the Wen residence. After Prince Jingkang returned the plaque to Wen Yang, the heir apparent sent Wen Yang, who had already been processed, to the Wen family residence, and instructed Lu Wanna that Wen Yang's condition was not optimistic and required rest and recuperation. That night, Lu Wanna had this bamboo grove constructed. She brought Wen Yang to this place. Many days passed this way, and the heir occasionally came to visit. Besides that was Lu Shan, the father of Lu Wanna, who brought some novel toys for Wen Yang. But Lu Wanna didn't say that. She only said, by a fortunate coincidence, Wen Yang returned. When she came back, she was covered in blood. I didn't want to ask her what had happened to her. Would your majesty have the heart to ask? A single word, unwilling. It made Xiao Mingyu's heart tremble violently, seeing the scene of the warhorse painting. How could anyone who cares about Wen Yang bear to? Your majesty has also seen it. Wen Yang is now in this state. Therefore, let us stopping. The Wen family owes nothing to the royal family, and Wen Yang owes nothing. Let me simply guard the only child I have left and live some peaceful days, Lu Wanna said, her voice choking up several times, especially when she said only. There was truly no way to avoid a hint of blame in her words. Her family's men have spent their lives on the battlefield, and since the generation before them, none have died of natural causes, none have not gone to war in their prime and perished there. Princess Lu Wanna, being a woman, indeed lacks the heroic spirit of her husband Xiao, and knows that the royal court currently lacks military generals. The children in the family are still young, so I humbly request your majesty to, after returning to the palace, not let the Empress Dowager send anyone from the Wen family to the military camp. I kneel on behalf of the dozens of people in the Wen family to thank your majesty. Before Lu Wanna's knees touched the ground, Xiao Mingyu acted swiftly and helped up this mother-in-law. Lu Wanna was using Wen Yang's compassion to make Changfeng endure the emperor's grace. Madam Wen, don't worry, I will handle matters concerning Wen Changfeng properly. Hearing this, Lu Wanna sighed with relief, but her mind was still unable to let go of thoughts about the prince consort. In the end, he couldn't help but speak up, and he didn't want Xiao Mingyu to be so easily replaced by the crown prince. Your majesty, there is still something I need to tell you. After Xiao Mingyu left, Lu Wanna's father, Lu Shong, then arrived. Hearing Lu Wanna recount the details of Xiao Mingyu and Xiao Wu's chaotic battle to her father, Lu Shong couldn't help but frown deeply. Father, I'm worried that Yang will still be unable to escape this time. You haven't seen the look in Xiao Mingyu's eyes when he looks at Yang. There's such intense possessiveness in his joy and delight. That joy and happiness revealed a strong sense of ownership. This is her daughter. The fact that when Yang entered the palace was already enough to make Lu Wanna regret deeply. Now, she no longer wanted to let Wen Yang have any connection with Xiao Mingyu. Lu Shong stroked his neatly trimmed beard and, with an expression of shrewdness, decisively said, Yang can no longer stay in the capital. Come back to Jiangnan with me. The capital's power is beyond Jiangnan's reach. Once in Jiangnan, it might be more beneficial to Yang's condition. Lu Wanna meant the same thing. The merchants of Jiangnan had their own school of thought. Father had considerable prestige in Jiangnan, and there were more extraordinary talents there. Perhaps the injuries on Wen Yang's body could be cured this way. The decision was made at once. Lu Wanna no longer hesitated. Having packed everything for Wen Yang, she left in the afternoon. When she departed, not a single person from the Wen family was awakened. The imperial city, the concubine A Yuan requested several times to see the emperor, but was turned away each time. The emperor also specially instructed the eunuch to convey a message, telling her to manage the harem more strictly. There are especially many matters at court nowadays, and they should not waste time on the emperor. Upon receiving the imperial edict, spent her days in tears, having no way to deal with the emperor, they could only go to see the Empress Dowager. To her surprise, the Empress Dowager was equally unhelpful. The emperor had already lost his previous concern for the concubine. She felt that she had lost all her reliance within this imperial palace. The attitudes of the Empress Dowager and the emperor were already enough to make her heart grow cold. The expenses in her own palace had also been correspondingly reduced. The matter of previously making Consort A Yuan the empress also went nowhere. Consort A Yuan was isolated and helpless. It was precisely at this moment that the Chanyu suddenly appeared before her. You're out of your mind. This is the imperial palace, not a Jurchen tribe. How did you get in here? The Chanyu wore his inner minister's robe, his face filled with cunning, and the moment he saw A Yuan, he pounced on her and held her in his embrace. A Yuan, your majesty has missed you so much. A Yuan struggled, trying hard to push away this man. If anyone else were to see her entangled with a man, there would be no point in her being a noble consort anymore. A Yuan, come back to the Jurchen with me. The Xianyu's body pressed down upon A Yuan's legs, lifting her entirely up, the burning passion in his eyes making A Yuan tremble all over. No, I won't go. I'm Han Chinese, not one of your Jurchen people. You have no right to treat me this way. Please, let me go. But the Xianyu curled his lips and smiled, saying, I've finally found you after so much trouble. How could I let you go so easily? Besides, Yuan, isn't there something you've forgotten? Yuan was stunned, her face then turned pale. Previously, Yuan had given the Chanyu a promise. It was precisely because of this promise that it cost Wen Yang her life. The Chanyu stared at her nakedly, saying each word deliberately. You once said that as long as I help you deal with Wen Yang and let her suffer disgrace and shame, you would give me what I want, what the Chanyu wanted. Yuan knew better than anyone else. This Jurchen king had regarded Yuan as his most precious treasure since he was 18 years old. He even used his determination to marry her as the motivation to defeat his brother and become the king of the Jurchens. If it weren't for Xiao Mingyu, Yuan would have long been the wife of the Chanyu, the mistress of the grasslands, but precisely because of Xiao Mingyu's appearance, Yuan's heart changed. She was unwilling to ride horses every day, spending her time with that damn beast. Even more so, she resented eating mutton and drinking sheep's milk, which left her body constantly smelling of. She preferred the elegance of the Great Zhou dynasty, liking the poetry and literature of the Great Zhou. The gold and silver ornaments, brocade and silk of the Great Zhou were far more beautiful than the fur and leather shoes on the grasslands. It was also because of Xiao Mingyu that she realized her Han Chinese bloodline deep in her bones could never adapt to life on the grasslands. She was determined to enter the imperial family. Becoming a concubine was probably the happiest thing that had ever happened to her. Although Xiao Mingyu didn't regard her with any respect, no matter what, she was still a concubine. In the absence of an empress, she was the ruler of this harem. The Chanyu wore an ambiguous expression, and his hands had already reached beneath Yuan's clothing. She let out a soft moan, giving the Chanyu pleasure. The Chanyu bit down on her neck, experiencing the body he had been longing for, a kiss at a time, slowly delving deep. A wave of heat surged up from Yuan's heart. The strange heat made her feel humiliated, yet it was so stimulating. While Yuan was stunned, the Chanyu feigned a fierce attack and quickly lifted up Yuan's skirt and undergarments, then up and down. Wait until it's over. The Chanyu saw a red stain on Yuan's clothes and curled his lips in disdainful laughter. Yuan, 3 years have passed. I never expected that Xiao Mingyu would never even touch you. Yuan's face was flushed with embarrassment. The pain beneath her informed her that her first time had come to an end. In her frustration, a daughter's natural shyness inadvertently showed itself. Tears fell as she regretted the promise she had made, but at the same time, she also felt this was a good opportunity to capture the Chanyu and make him serve her in the future. Just as she was about to complain about her hardships and arouse the Chanyu's sympathy, she saw disdain and disgust on the Chanyu's face instead. She was startled. Chanyu, what expression is this? The Chanyu sneered, his hand gripping Lady Yuan's chin. It's because I think you're pitiable. Her face turned pale. In her ears were still the Xianyu's merciless words. Yuan, do you truly think this king only loves you alone, and that coming here despite the danger was merely to seek your pleasure? Yuan's body began to tremble. A woman, or rather a woman that Xiao Mingyu wouldn't even deign to touch. What do I, the true queen, need with a woman? Yuan, I favored you before only so that when my brothers thought I was a fool and let their guard down, I could eliminate them one by one. Otherwise, with your appearance, with your abilities, how could you possibly catch the eye of this king? Each revelation made Yuan bite her lip hard. No, how could that be possible? All those things you did, how could you have been acting the whole time? Seeing her shocked, furious, and heartbroken expression, Singleto felt a flicker of satisfaction in his heart. Ha 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 ha, so you're saying you still pine for the fact that I loved you? Yuan, you're truly ridiculous. When I showed affection for you, you spoke countless bad words about me behind my back and in public, calling me rude, reckless, unrefined, complaining that I was annoying with my love for you. Now that I say I've been using you all along, you still feel hurt and sad. Ha ha, you're truly selfish enough to believe that all men in this world should submit to you. Yuan never imagined things would turn out this way. She was still arguing, still holding on to a faint hope. How could you fake it when you've been so good to me? The Chanyu burst into laughter again. Ha 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 ha. Perhaps once I still had a trace of genuine feeling, but after you took Wei Yang's place as my savior, I have no feelings for you whatsoever. A yuan, look in the mirror and see that face of yours. How could it possibly compare to a yuan's? Xiao Mingyu not touching you is truly a blessing. What kind of woman is Wei Yang? And how dare you compare yourself to her, if it weren't for me? Do you think you could have reached this deep palace as a concubine, enjoying endless honor and wealth? What, it was you? Do you want to hear it? But I'm too lazy to say it. I originally thought that under Xiao Mingyu's training, you would at least have some sense of self-awareness. But your dead fish expression just now made me feel that you're completely useless. Having said that, the Chanyu strode outwards. Only Aunt Yuan was left alone, clutching her torn clothing. Her mind filled with the deep affection the Chanyu once showed her. She wanted to eat douhua, soybean curd, but there was none on the grassland, so the Chanyu traveled 1,000 miles to find her a douhua master. She loved poetry and literature, but without good brushes, ink, paper, and stones. Even if the Chanyu had gone to the capital, he had spent a great deal of money to find her a set of extraordinary treasures. In the grasslands, she should have worn fur and leather like other women. But because the Chanyu cherished her deeply, he specially allowed her to wear hand-style clothing. The Chanyu was so good to her, how could it all be fake? Suddenly, she remembered something. After meeting Xiao Mingyu, she made up her mind to join the harem. Thus, under the pretext of the Chanyu's assassination plot, she sparked war between the Jurchens and the Great Jew, successfully presenting to Xiao Mingyu the woman the Chanyu loved most, herself, as a bride for political alliance. The Great Jew was then dominated by peace advocates, so Xiao Mingyu would certainly accept her. Therefore, she easily entered the harem and became a concubine. But what if her so-called scheme was actually arranged by the Chanyu? The terrifying details made our Yuan's body begin to tremble. Just then, a voice came from outside the door. His Majesty has arrived. Yuan immediately widened her eyes, but before she could even get dressed, the palace door burst open at that very moment. Xiao Mingyu sacrificed his life and carried countless eunuchs and palace women through the door and entered. The palace women and eunuchs saw the chaos inside the hall and were all shocked. But they heard Xiao Mingyu say, "The concubine has disgraced virtue and conduct. From today on, she shall reside in Chang'an Temple and shall never return." Boom. Ao Yuan's head felt as if it had been struck by lightning. Her wealth and luxury were gone. Her fine clothes and luxurious food were also gone. Chang'anshi, nun's temple, done. Her life is over. Xiao Qingying came out of the concubine palace and went directly back to the study. In the study, the real Xiao Mingyu was waiting for him. "Imperial brother, it's been a long time," Xiao Qingying said as she smiled slightly, the human skin mask revealing a face identical to Xiao Mingyu's. "Remove this human skin mask when meeting with me." After Xiao Mingyu finished speaking, Xiao Qingying extended her hand and took off the human skin mask. A face that was 7/10 similar to Xiao Mingyu's was revealed at that moment. "How is being an emperor treating you?" as Xiao Mingyu asked. His hands began to fiddle with the ink stone. Xiao Qingying said, "Admired by 10,000 people, a single cough or glance can make those around have countless thoughts in their hearts. How can such a feeling be addictive?" As he spoke, his eyes were examining Xiao Mingyu. Only seeing Xiao Mingyu showed no change at all upon hearing the phrase addiction. His two hands continued to fiddle with the brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Xiao Qingying stepped even closer, reached out, and took the ink slab from Xiao Mingyu's hands, helping him grind the ink. Xiao Mingyu showed no particular emotion, took the paper and brush, and began to write. "Your Majesty, what a delightful mood you have. Even at this moment, you still find time to write. Back then, it was Your Majesty who instructed me to leave such a message for Lu Wana. Now, following Your Majesty's wishes, I have seated myself on this throne of supreme power. Therefore, now that Your Majesty has returned, do you not fear that I might harbor selfish desires and refuse to yield this position to you?" Xiao Mingyu finally raised his eyes slightly to look at Xiao Qingying in front of him. He spoke slowly. "I'm not afraid." Xiao Qingying raised her eyebrows slightly. and she saw Xiao Mingyu writing characters on the rice paper. "Your Majesty, you have exquisite handwriting. As a younger brother, I have always admired it since childhood. I still remember when we were children, we used to study together. And the master before the throne would always say that Your Majesty's handwriting was the most fair and beautiful, while I was always scolded by the master for being unworthy. Back then, I didn't accept it, but now no matter how I write, I can't seem to get it right. Indeed, after all these years, my handwriting has become my own style, so the difficulty of imitating my current handwriting must be great. Yeah, so I've already written it for you." Since the meeting between the two, Xiao Mingyu has never used I or imperial I to refer to himself, but rather uses I. Xiao Qingying frowned slightly. Xiao Mingyu then handed over the already written document to Xiao Qingying. "This thing, will you read it yourself, or shall I personally make the trip? Yihi jiao do you?" Xiao Qingying hadn't understood what it was yet. Looking ahead, she saw 2 characters abdication. Xiao Qingying was shocked. "Imperial brother, what does this mean?" Xiao Mingyu sneered. "Isn't it good for you to get what you wish for?" Xiao Qingying indeed had ambitions to become emperor. Moreover, the very moment Xiao Mingyu returned, she had already arranged countless secret guards in the surrounding areas. Even within this imperial study, Xiao Qingying had already prepared several thousand secret guards. The reason was to force Xiao Mingyu into a rage under one's relentless pressure, providing a pretext to deal with Xiao Mingyu once and for all. The father, Emperor Jingkang Wang Zhongxiao, had loved the country for many years, from the moment Xiao Qingying was born. He had known that to ascend this grand hall, he had to first cross the hurdle of Xiao Mingyu. Previously, Xiao Qingying had already prepared to make a big move and seize the imperial throne once more. He's finally in luck now. Xiao Mingyu has actually directly passed the throne to him. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Xiao Qingying couldn't help but have all sorts of thoughts about Xiao Mingyu's move. As everyone knows, the Emperor of the Great Jew is no kind person. 10 years old when he ascended the throne, he had already seized control of by the age of 12. By the age of 15, he had already reclaimed the lost territories that his predecessor had failed to recover. He completely changed his predecessor's various policies, adapting strategies to local conditions and circumstances. He guided the Jew kingdom toward a more prosperous future. Even the beloved Wen family, who was deeply loved by the people, had suffered such humiliation. Yet not a single person would curse the emperor. They did not dare to blame him, could not bring themselves to blame him, and were unwilling to place all the guilt on the current emperor. Such a unique emperor throughout history was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. If it weren't for the trick of the human skin mask, how could Xiao Qingying dare to entertain such thoughts? "Your Majesty, why is this so? I'm tired of being emperor, and now the emperor can take good care of this country." Xiao Qingying's eyebrows and eyes were filled with a smile, carrying various shrewd calculations. "Your Majesty's actions have made this younger brother somewhat afraid. If I don't know the reasons behind this, I dare not take this golden position for the time being." Xiao Mingyu let out a light snort, his eyes glancing toward the door, with some dark shadows stirring. "I know what you're thinking. If you want those shadow guards to come in now, you may let them in." Xiao Qingying adjusted the sleeves of the golden dragon robe on her shoulders. "Your Majesty, this golden dragon robe is simply too comfortable to wear. I put it on once and couldn't bear to take it off. How can this garment possess such great charm, when paired with the dragon throne, exuding supreme authority? Everyone before me either kneels or lies prostrate. The feeling of wielding power is simply too good." Xiao Mingyu gently curved his lips. He knew his younger brother quite well. He was extremely decisive in his actions, never hesitating or dragging his feet. When they had both studied in the imperial study, the master had once praised him for having the bearing of a future emperor, though his ambition was written all over his face. "Not compassionate enough. Not magnanimous enough. Master, you believed that as an emperor, one should prioritize the happiness of the people above all else. Expanding territory through military conquest easily leads to wars and chaos, which would prevent the world from enjoying peace. Xiao Qingying is fond of war. In several conflicts with the Jurchens, Xiao Qingying consistently demanded resolution through warfare. However, All were impeached by the ministers, therefore. The governance and administration passed down by the former emperor ultimately prioritize harmony above all. But now, the current ruler of Nuzhan is a Chanyu. He is an ambitious statesman. Xiao Mingyu's advocated harmony might be difficult to withstand the ambition of the Chanyu. It is even possible that Xiao Mingyu's weakness of a woman's compassion could lead to the downfall of the mountains and rivers. Chapter 32. If Xiao Qingying could occupy this position, she would only be able to persuade the ministers who favor peace to go to war, but this might not bring prosperity to the great Zhu. Therefore, Xiao Mingyu's willingness to yield the throne to Zhu Ji has been carefully considered from all angles. At the same time, he also understood that upon his return from this mission, aside from having to report to the Empress Dowager about the matter concerning Wen Changfeng, Xiao Qingying had probably already set up a trap and been waiting for his return. What time did your majesty know that I had already arranged secret guards within the palace? Xiao Qingying had already discovered that the secret guards outside the door were no longer his people. Xiao Qingying certainly knew that Xiao Mingyu had been cultivating secret guards hidden within the palace, with an unknown number of them. But Xiao Qingying could be certain that Xiao Mingyu had certainly been on guard against him all along. So, Xiao Qingying had instructed his cultivated to send out some signals before they died, letting him know his situation. Just now, he had already smelled the strange fragrance emanating from the dead. Xiao Mingyu handed the edict in his hand to Xiao Qingying. From the moment I had you pretend to be me, I had already considered this step. Xiao Qingying was startled, then pursed her lips. She had ultimately underestimated this older brother. No wonder why the imperial husbandman had favored Xiao Mingyu so much in the past. Xiao Qingying knew she was already in a losing position. He took a deep breath, stepped back one pace, and bowed. Your Majesty, you may kill or torture me as you wish. If you absolutely must exterminate my clan, I will have no complaints. Who would tolerate a rebel royal relative? Xiao Mingyu could understand whatever he wanted to do to the Jinkang Wang clan. If it were him, he would probably only fear that he couldn't completely eliminate those who opposed him. Xiao Mingyu looked at his younger brother and then handed over another item. Xiao Qingying looked at the jade pendant that gleamed with light and bore the character, his eyes flashing with surprise. Here is for you. Xiao Mingyu's words had just fallen when Xiao Qingying was startled. Imperial elder brother. Xiao Qingying could hardly believe that Xiao Mingyu was actually willing to give this item to him, thinking instead that Xiao Mingyu wanted to frame him through some other means. Put away all those thoughts in your head. I'm not as complicated as you think. What I mean is the literal meaning of my words. Here's the abdication decree. Here's the dragon's seal. I'm giving you the empire you want. Xiao Qingying widened her eyes, looking helplessly at Xiao Mingyu. Imperial brother, you really? I have never told a lie. Yes, Xiao Mingyu and Xiao Qingying are different. One is upright and straightforward in his dealings, the other is skilled in clever strategies and sophistry. Both can achieve their goals, but Xiao Qingying's thoughts run deeper. Xiao Qingying, I have been observing you for a long time. You possess all the conditions of an emperor. If you wish to expand your territory, then do as you have said, but I have only one requirement for you. Do not slaughter innocent people to achieve your own goals. Among the loyal ministers in the court, use those who can serve you, and even if they cannot be used, spare their lives. Understand? Xiao Qingying now truly believed in Xiao Mingyu's genuine decision, at the same time as his heart was filled with immense fear. There was also tremendous excitement. This imperial throne was actually within reach. Xiao Qingying immediately knelt on the ground, prostrating herself, her head banging loudly against the floor. Your Majesty's words, I, your younger brother, will surely remember. Chapter 33. The matter of abdication shocked the entire court and the nation. When Prince Jinkang learned of the news, he was still in southern China enjoying hot pot with Lu Shong. When I heard what Lu Shong said, I nearly burned off my mouth. Bro, you're joking with me, right? My son is emperor, and I'm the former emperor. Lu Shong snorted slightly, then picked up a piece of delicious lamb roll, dipped it in sesame oil and minced garlic sauce, and placed it on Wen Yang's bowl, who was eating happily beside him. Wen Yang bit into it, and the fragrant aroma teemed everywhere, her pair of big eyes squinting into a happy crescent shape. I want more. Lu Shong, seeing this, immediately grabbed the meat that had been heated for King Jinkang and put it all into Wen Yang's bowl. Black sesame paste is delicious. Yang, eat more. Eating lamb is good for your health. When Yang enjoyed herself immensely, Lu Shong saw that the lamb was running low, and quickly called over the attendants beside him to fetch several more trays of fresh meat. The attendant wore a mask and moved very quickly. The lamb rolls were soon brought up in a large bowl. King Jinkang sighed lightly, thinking that the world truly had no shortage of wonderful strange things. He knew his own son quite well. The wildness and boldness had always been particularly prominent in Xiao Yi. Although the idea of wanting to be an emperor had never been explicitly mentioned before him, everything he heard in his daily conversations revolved around the state, the nation, and the world. King Jinkang felt that it was no longer safe to stay in the capital city. He turned to Lu Shong and said, I think this southern water town is quite nice. Why don't you recommend some good properties to me? I'll buy one. Or how about this, I'll buy a small villa right next to where you're staying, and then we can meet up every few days for hot pot or something. What do you say? Lu Shong listened and nodded. That's exactly what I wanted. It's too boring to eat alone, and it's lonely to eat with just one person. 3 people eating is just right. Just right. I'll help you look for a place later. Such a quick agreement led Prince Jinkang to continue with his requirements for the mansion. Lu Shong sensed something was off. Are you planning to bring your family in the capital as well? Prince Jinkang nodded. Exactly. Beautiful scenery should be enjoyed with family. What's the problem? Don't you have such mansions? Lu Shong shook his head. That's not it. I just think what you're doing is suspicious, and might even drag us into trouble. Jinkang King coughed lightly twice. Lu Shong, think carefully. I am now the former emperor. Otherwise, you'd better look elsewhere. Our Lu family is unlucky. We can't be friends with imperial relatives. Upon hearing this, the Jinkang King pulled him back again. Don't do this. Don't be like this, brother. We're at least fellow meat friends. This isn't good. When Yang watched the 2 old men pushing and shoving in front of her, finding it boring, she just focused on eating meat heartily. While the masked attendant was constantly helping her wash the meat, help her dip it in sauce, and attend to her every need. By the time when Yang had finished eating an entire bowl of meat, Lu Shong and the Prince of Jinkang were still arguing over where to place the house. When Yang felt the noise unbearable and got up to leave, Lu Shong, seeing that she was about to go out, quickly said to the masked attendant, going out to have fun, be careful. All right. The attendant listened and prepared to leave. Lu Shong called him back and then tossed him a pouch of yin silver. If the young lady wants to buy anything, just buy it, with the heavy silver in hand. The attendant quickly darted out, afraid of losing sight of Wen Yang. King Jinkang watched the attendant's departing figure and felt it seemed somewhat familiar, but couldn't recall where he had seen him. Who is this person? When did you take on a servant? What, you're also interested in my attendant? Look at you. You just like to assume the worst of others. I'm not competing with you for this person. So why are you in such a hurry? I just think this person seems familiar. I just want to ask. Chapter 34. Lu Shong took a bite of the pickled vegetables in the lamb hot pot and said, when I returned from the capital, we encountered a group of bandits. This kid helped us fend them off and got injured. I couldn't bear to leave him behind, so I brought him back. I see. How many bandits were there? He was able to get injured by them. Huh. King Jinkang explained. Look at this person's posture and stance. He's clearly trained. His hands and feet are quick. Something the average person couldn't even match. Just now, the way he served Wen Yang the lamb with such care and attention, it reminded me of the kind of service you'd see in the palace. Lu Shong snorted. I say, just forget about buying a house in Jiangnan. The former emperor is more suited to living in the capital. You've only been away for a few days, and you've already mentioned the palace so many times. Even your personal attendant can be connected to the palace. I'm talking to you. What's going on? I'm speaking to you nicely. Don't go off in your own direction. Anyway, have you investigated the background of this attendant? Considering Wang Yang's current conduct, can she go out on the street with just an attendant? You should follow her along. It won't be necessary. One attendant will suffice. What you said earlier was right. This man's skills are indeed impressive. An ordinary person couldn't match him. The Prince of Jinkang didn't mean it that way. Wen Yang, you don't cherish me, but you do cherish him. How could that be? He's my ancestor. I don't feel at ease with just one attendant following me, especially with one whose background is unclear. I have to go with him myself. Prince Jinkang wants to leave. Lu Shong immediately grabbed Prince Jinkang. You really are. Two young kids. Why are you getting involved in this? I'm also young. You really should have some decency. The Jinkang king cursed and was unable to walk out. Lu Shong had served up lamb kidney and lamb belly, which were extremely tempting to the Jinkang king. At first, if I was merely suspicious, now I can be quite certain. Upon hearing the Jinkang king's words, Lu Shong was stunned. What do you mean? You still want to hide it from me? Ha, with those skills, that physique. It's obviously someone from the Xiao clan. I can't not know. Fine, if you don't want to admit it, I understand. After all, the world has changed. Fine, fine. This isn't something I should be worrying about. I'll just enjoy my kidney stir-fry first. Lu Shong suppressed a smile, then went to get 2 pots of good wine. Master Wanyan's health isn't what it used to be. She can't even touch a drop of alcohol. I didn't dare bring it out when she was here. Now that she's gone, we brothers can enjoy ourselves to our heart's content. Grand Elder, let me fill your cup. Oh my, hearing that made me truly feel alarmed indeed. Jiangnan in misty rain, stone bridges stand everywhere, willow leaves drift into the water, and occasionally the wind gently stirs across the surface, creating ripples of water waves, accompanied by the occasional carp leaping out of the water. A scene of vitality and vigor unfolds. On both sides of the bridge, countless shops line the banks. Unlike the wide imperial capital roads that could accommodate chariot racing, the alleys here are narrow and winding. With more mobile stalls moving through the streets and alleys, many nobles from the capital came specially to this place to witness the water scenery of Jiangnan. When Yang put away the umbrella, and the attendants behind her casually took it from her hands, when Yang walked along, stopping to look around, she had just finished eating lamb hot pot, and soon her son seemed to have digested it. Seeing the delicious food on the street, she couldn't help but want to have a few bites. But there was too much to eat, and if she bought everything once over, she would probably never finish it all. She bought steamed buns with filling, ate one, and then passed it to the person behind her. Still didn't forget to say, "Eat it." The attendant remained silent, removed the mask from the lower half of his face, and started eating directly. When Yang went to buy some fried skewered meat, ate a small piece herself, and then threw the rest to the person behind her. Then there were crispy pastries, Osmanthus milk, Jiangnan roasted chicken, braised pork belly, spicy stir-fried snail meat, and oil-fried crayfish. When Yang only ate a little bit of each dish, it didn't fill her stomach. She had also tasted enough flavors. It was actually the attendants following behind her who, because of that comment, didn't dare waste a single bite. All of it went down his stomach. By the time when Yang had finished exploring the street, she was tired. So she said to the attendant behind her, "Carry me." The attendant was obedient and compliant. Naturally, she quickened her pace, walked up to Wen Yang, and then crouched down. The attendant lifted the person onto his back, and Wen Yang yawned and immediately fell asleep on his shoulder, still speaking in his sleep. "Don't go back. Take me and keep wandering around. Wander until it's dark." Chapter 35. The moon was bright and the stars sparse. Xiao Mingyu beneath Wen Yang was breathing lightly. The beads of sweat on his forehead dropped one by one, seeping through his clothes, leaving a large patch of sweat stains. Because he was afraid the person on his body would feel uncomfortable, he specially added a thin layer of cotton between the two of them. One reason was that he didn't want his own sweat to transfer to Wen Yang's body. Secondly, he wanted to make Wen Yang sleep more comfortably. Even so, the pace of his steps remained steady. Once they returned to the Lu residence, with the maid's assistance, Xiao Mingyu finally placed Wen Yang on the bed. Just had he put the person down when he rushed to the outhouse and emptied his already nauseous stomach. After a while, he calmed down. When he came out of the outhouse, Lu Shong appeared before him. Lu Shong smiled at him. "Are you tired? Want to keep walking?" "All right." Xiao Mingyu placed his hands behind his back, and the moment he saw Lu Shong, He immediately suppressed the nausea and stomach pain, instead exuding his unique royal aura. During the day, when Xiao Mingyu accompanied Wen Yang shopping, Lu Shong sent his attendants to follow them, even when it got dark. When he went out for a walk because he had eaten too much lamb, he specially followed along the entire way. Watching Xiao Mingyu's behavior in front of Wen Yang, and his current noble demeanor, he seemed like a completely different person. Who could have imagined, or more importantly, who would have dared to imagine that this emperor would be willing to give up his empire and the supreme position of the 9-5 for the sake of a woman? Lu family's garden, vast and elaborate. Lu Shong walked ahead, saying, "You can see the flowers in the garden," before Yang arrived. "I had craftsmen from Jiangnan brought in to plant them. I heard from her mother that Yang likes kapok flowers, so I planted these all in the courtyard. In spring, the whole yard is filled with orange-red blooms. In summer, the tree provides lush green shade, adding a touch of coolness to the courtyard." Even after she saw tulips, peonies, and roses in the palace, those delicate, bright red varieties, she still preferred kapok flowers. So she still took after her biological father and her older brothers, loving what she loves without any change, no matter what happens. That's why when she entered the palace, even though she spent 3 years in a cold palace-like place, I believe she never once regretted it. Xiao Mingyu slightly pursed his lips. The thoughts in his heart were troubling him. Lu Shong looked at his expression and smiled again. "Now, this nobleman has been following us since we brought Yang back to Jiangnan. He would even risk his life for Yang, so Lu Shong thinks this nobleman is a true man who can handle power with ease, but I don't think he's the same when it comes to matters of the heart. Those bandits back then were truly no match for this nobleman. You took that blade meant for someone else. You wanted to atone, to redeem yourself with your life, didn't you? You felt that would make you no longer owe anyone anything." Xiao Mingyu's heart gave a slight shock. It seemed Lu Shong had laid bare everything. "So I saved you and brought you back. I feel I can't let Yang suffer alone in the future. I need you to be with her. She's injured all over and surely needs someone to take care of her. If you truly wish her well, you should understand the sincerity of my words today." That's settled then. Yang will probably feel pain again soon. The rainy season summer, south of the Yangtze River, is humid and full of water. Even the best medicine causes Wen Yang some discomfort when sleeping at night. Xiao Mingyu bowed to Lu Shong and said, "Xiao Mingyu's life has long been clear about what to do since the moment he learned all the truths. I once acted with short-sightedness, and I am filled with shame and regret. I only hope to be able to accompany those I have wronged in the future, and I am deeply grateful for Lord Lu's guidance. Xiao Mingyu will remember this with all my heart." After speaking, Xiao Mingyu quickly walked toward the back courtyard. He went to Wen Yang's courtyard. In the courtyard, maids and servants were waiting for Xiao Mingyu to arrive. "You finally came. The young miss is crying in pain. What should we do? Shall we use the old method again?" Xiao Mingyu remained silent, his eyes falling on the ice cubes and water prepared beside him. He took off his outer clothes and submerged his entire body into it. Soon, the cold air reached the tips of his eyebrows. Next, Xiao Mingyu emerged from the ice bucket, changed into clean clothes, and went back into the room. Inside the room, Wen Yang's shouting had just subsided somewhat. This was Xiao Mingyu's method. The summer heat is high and humid. Fire is lit indoors to dispel dampness, but he couldn't let Wen Yang feel too hot. So Xiao Mingyu used himself as a medium to bring some coolness to Wen Yang. "Just being alive can't withstand being soaked like this," the maid said with concern. "That's right. No matter how you look at it, it's still just one person, with ice buckets and fireplaces. The wood might not even be able to withstand it." The servants whispered among themselves. The Prince of Jinkang and Lu Shong stood before the door without entering. King Jinkang laughed and said, "I think you, as a grandfather, should still give Xiao Mingyu a proper title. Otherwise, this isn't very good for Wen Yang's reputation." Lu Shong sneered and said, "I'll tell you're vulgar. And you really are vulgar. I think this is just fine. One is willing to be a slave, and the other is willing to pretend to have amnesia. Why bother piercing this thin layer? As long as Yang is happy, I don't care about reputation or fame." Princess Jinkang was startled. "You said pretend to forget, Lu Shong. The end.